Chapter 187. Since he had promised to help find Ming Shi, Ajur naturally wouldn't go back on his word in front of Fengwu. He obediently used the communication crystal to contact Elena, a permanent member of the Ming Shi team. After learning about Ming Shi's whereabouts from Elena, Ajur told Fengwu what he had found out. It turned out that Ming Shi hadn't entered the virtual realm. Instead, he had brought the second-year juniors out for training. The training location wasn't particularly dangerous. After all, it was the first time the second-year fellows had gone out for training. Naturally, they wouldn't go to a place that was too dangerous. Ming Shi was the chief student of the fifth year. As the chief student, he and another fifth-year student had brought 4 second-year juniors out for training. Before the training mission was completed, it was impossible for them to return. Of course, it was also impossible for them to enter the virtual realm. Hearing this answer, Fengwu was disappointed. Ming Shi had already brought the juniors out. It was already impossible for her to find Ming Shi. Ajur looked at Fengwu's disappointed little face and felt that it was strange. If anyone who knew him knew how he felt, their jaws would definitely drop to the ground. Who was Ajur? That guy had been a little devil since he was young. Among the aristocratic youths in Yenadu, he was the most difficult one to deal with. Who knew how many people had suffered at his hands? This guy had never been soft-hearted when it came to messing with people. You must be kidding me. Xiao Wu, do you want me to go to the virtual realm with you? Ajur took a deep breath and asked as if he had made up his mind. Actually, he also had a mission. As the inheritor of the 4 god seals, his time was very tight. Now, at home, he had to complete the missions that his father had assigned him every day and constantly improve his strength. According to his father, he hoped that he would grow up to be a qualified inheritor of the divine seal as soon as possible and not fall behind the other 3. That way, he would be at ease. It was a pity that his father was relieved, but Ajur did not feel relieved at all. Although he could endure the high-intensity training every day, he did not have much personal time. This made Ajur, who was used to being free, feel very uncomfortable. He missed the days when he was free in school. Really? Fengwu's mood instantly turned for the better. It's true, but I can't accompany you for too long. I can only accompany you for 2 hours a day at most. Is it okay for you to play by yourself during the rest of the time? To be honest, what he was most worried about was whether Fengwu would encounter a swindler and be cheated or something. The word dumb was written all over this girl's face. It would be strange if those swindlers didn't make a move on her. No problem. Fengwu nodded seriously and said. After the two agreed, they agreed on a time to go to the ethereal plane together every day. This was Ajur's first time going to the ethereal plane. In the past, he was still young, so his family did not allow him to enter the ethereal plane to gain experience. Now that he was about the same age and he had obtained a perception stone with his own strength, naturally, no one would stop him from going to the ethereal plane. However, before he went to meet up with Fengwu, he still had one more important thing to do, and that was to leave the novice village as soon as possible. Ajur was doing missions in the novice village to level up, while Fengwu was looking for work in Shihua City. Fengwu loved to eat, so money was more important to her. In the eyes of the Fengwu girl, money was equal to food. So, if she wanted to eat, money was a must. After circling the city once, Fengwu successfully completed 2 errands and a monster hunting quest. The 3 quests gave her a reward of 1 gold coin. Fengwu's favorite quest was still the monster hunting quest, because those monsters would drop a small amount of coins. Although it was not a lot, no matter how small a mosquito was, it was still meat. Fengwu happily put away the coins. Fengwu was in a good mood. She could buy a few more buns. She was in a good mood, and the stabbing of the sword in her hand became smoother and smoother. Fengwu was currently doing a quest, and it was a bandit-type quest. Fengwu was looking for a quest on the streets when she happened to see a bandit hunting quest posted on the wall outside the city lord's mansion. The quest required her to eliminate a group of bandits outside Shihua City. At this time, Fengwu was on her way up the mountain. On this small mountain surrounded by bandits, there were more than 50 humanoid monsters guarding it. It could be said that there was a sentry every 3 steps and a sentry every 5 steps. They were keeping a close eye on her. After surveying the terrain a few times, Fengwu chose a place with fewer humanoid monsters to break through. She wanted to kill her way in alone with her sword. Unfortunately, she had just started fighting when she ran into a familiar face. Xiao Wu. After a scream, a small figure wearing a swordmaster's robe jumped into Fengwu's arms. Tingyu. Fengwu's voice rose a pitch. Even though she still had that stoic face, it was obvious that she was in a good mood because of the person who jumped into her arms. Heavens, this is too much of a coincidence. I really didn't expect to run into Xiao Wu in the virtual realm. Ting Feng quickly ran over and ruffled Fengwu's black and thick hair. Fengwu didn't get angry and obediently allowed the siblings to do as they pleased. Xiao Wu, did you also accept a mission and come here to get rid of bandits? Pei Qin was also very happy to see Fengwu. He played with his hair elegantly with his fingers. His long hair, which was originally dyed black, had turned into his original gray because of the influx of his spiritual power. Yes. Fengwu nodded. That's great, we can work together. Listen to me, little dance, the monsters in this world are just as crazy as the magical beasts in the outside world. They can't be killed no matter how hard you try. It's impossible for a single person to take down this group of bandits alone. It's just a dream. Tingyu was afraid that Fengwu didn't know how powerful these bandits were, so she immediately told Fengwu everything about how difficult and powerful the monsters in the virtual realm were. Of course, she also exaggerated some of her own performance. Were they very powerful? Fengwu blinked and thought carefully about the monsters she had defeated along the way. In the end, she came to the conclusion that they weren't particularly powerful. The 4 members of the expert team had gathered. Only a juror was left. Since Tingyu and the other 2 were accompanying them, Fengwu didn't feel bored. The 4 of them killed monsters all the way up the mountain. During the process, they even took time to chat. Those who didn't know would think that they were on vacation. Because there were 4 more people, the speed of killing monsters increased significantly. They didn't expect to meet another group of people halfway up the mountain. This group of people was frighteningly handsome and beautiful. Everyone was wearing equipment that was silver or above. It was obvious that this was a group of tycoons. Moreover, these people's levels should be very high. In short, it was impossible for them to be below level 20 like the 4 of them. Chapter 188. In the Mirage, one's level had little to do with one's strength. A high level did not mean that one's strength was also high. The benefit of reaching a high level was that one could explore higher level maps. There were many places in the Mirage that had level restrictions. Only those who had reached a certain level could go to more places. If one's level was not high enough, no matter how strong one was, it was impossible to go to higher level maps. Moreover, the higher the maps, the more benefits one could obtain. This was also the reason why there were so many people working hard to level up even though there was no relationship between level and strength. It was all for the sake of changing maps. Now that they had met a group of high-level adventurers, it seemed that they were like Fengwu's group, here to get rid of evil. Pei Qin was wondering if he should take the initiative to greet them. Now that the 4 members of their expert team were here, he was the only one who could take on the diplomatic role. Tingyu and Tingfeng were careless people who wished for the world to be in chaos. Fengwu was obviously a girl who was not good at socializing. How could he rest assured that such an important job like diplomacy would be handed over to the 3 of them? He did not want to draw a lot of hatred. Fengwu. It's really you. You bad woman, why are you here? Before Pei Qin could speak, a very unfriendly shout came from the group of adventurers opposite them. Pei Qing was very unhappy. Who was it? Who was so uneducated to dare to talk about his little sister Fengwu like that? He looked over unhappily and saw a black-haired beauty in a magician's robe glaring angrily at Fengwu. Her eyes were fierce and full of disgust. Is that Xiao Wu? It's really you. Xiao Wu, where did you go? Do you know how worried your mother was about you? A delicate black-haired figure holding a long sword stood next to the girl who had just spoken. From their expressions, it could be seen that the two of them had a good relationship. Ting, why are you paying attention to her? When this bad woman is at home, she bullies you every day because she's the daughter of the first wife. How dare you call her sister? Qiu Ruoshui glanced at Feng Ting with disappointment, then turned to look at Fengwu with even more dissatisfaction. Xiao Wu, is she someone you know? Ting Yu whispered into Fengwu's ear. In fact, she wanted to ask if they were enemies. No. Fengwu shook her head affirmatively. You're actually pretending not to know me? Do you think we'll forget what you've done just because you pretend not to know me? You're dreaming, Qiu Ruoshui looked at Fengwu with disdain. She had a smug expression on her face that said, I've already seen through your scheme. Xiao Wu, what did you do? Who is stopping you here to scold you? Ting Feng was very curious. With Fengwu's character, he didn't think that Fengwu could do anything that would make people angry. Ruoshui, don't talk about Xiao Wu like that. No matter what, Xiao Wu is my sister. Even if she's still my sister. Please stop talking about her. Feng Ting looked at Qiu Ruoshui very seriously, as if to express her feelings. She looked at Fengwu from time to time. Her eyes were full of sympathy, as if Fengwu had become a beggar now. Even if she was so. Pei Qing sneered secretly. This woman seemed to be more scheming than the one who shouted randomly. She didn't look like a fool who only knew how to shout randomly. She gave birth to a child out of wedlock and was kicked out of the Feng family because she was pregnant with a wild man's bastard. She's no longer the daughter of the first wife of the Feng family. Why are you still so polite to her? Calling her sister, she's not worthy. She's just a bitch. Qiu Ruoshui's mouth was poisonous. Ruoshui, don't be like this. Xiao Wu must have her difficulties. Feng Ting looked at Fengwu and then looked at Qiu Ruoshui with some embarrassment. Her beautiful face was full of embarrassment. She's originally, clap, clap. Don't get me wrong. This was not applause. As the two sounds of clapping disappeared, a black-haired girl in blue lightly flew back to Pei Qing and others. You bitch, how dare you hit me? Qiu Ruoshui screamed in disbelief. Her eyes were full of grievance and resentment. She, Qiu Ruoshui, was the treasure of the family since she was born. Since she was young, the family didn't even dare to lay a finger on her. Today, she was hit by a bitch, which made her feel wronged and deeply humiliated. Fengwu, you bad woman. You're still as bad as before. You even dare to hit Ruoshui. One of the three boys who had been standing aside and didn't speak finally spoke. Ning Fei looked at Fengwu angrily. He was very angry at Fengwu's behavior of hitting people. Fengwu was indeed a bad woman. She used to bully those girls who liked the team leader. Now, she even dared to hit the team leader's sister. She was simply too bad. Apologize to Ruoshui immediately. If you don't blame me for hitting a woman. Lu Zong also spoke angrily. If it weren't for the fact that Fengwu was an ordinary person who couldn't cultivate, he would have raised his sword and killed her out of the virtual world. Only the last man in a golden robe didn't move. His eyes were slightly lowered, and there was a flash of light in his eyes. When Qiu Ruoshui angrily rushed to provoke Fengwu because she saw her, Jin Li noticed a problem. As a waste of both magic and dou qi, it was impossible for Fengwu's spiritual force to connect to the virtual world. But at this moment, she really appeared. When Qiu Ruoshui was slapped, he found a more important problem. Fengwu could slap Qiu Ruoshui, who was not weak, twice in the face when the five of them didn't have time to react. In the end, she still escaped unscathed. Although it was because they didn't set up any defense, it was enough to show that she could already cultivate and had a high strength. What happened? Why did a waste that everyone thought of suddenly become so powerful? Naturally, no one would answer Jean Li's question for him. Because Fengwu's sudden attack directly led to the atmosphere of mutual hostility between the two sides. Apologize. Are you kidding? This woman inexplicably scolded Xiao Wu when she saw her. She even scolded her so harshly. Xiao Wu hit her well. She was hit so well that she cried out. Humph. After that, he snorted coldly at Qiu Ruoshui, whose cheeks were obviously swollen. Ruoshui is telling the truth. You don't know how bad and hateful this woman is. She used to bully Tingting with her identity as the daughter of the first wife. She also used the status of the Feng family to bully people everywhere. Scolding her is a light punishment. It's better to kill such a hateful person like her. Ning Fei glared at Fengwu with hatred. His ferocious look seemed as if he couldn't wait to rush up and tear Fengwu apart immediately. Bully. Fengwu would bully people. With her character, it should be good if she wasn't bullied. Were these people really talking about the same Fengwu as the one they recognized? Could it be that they recognized the wrong person? Pei Qing and the other two really suspected that the guy opposite them made a mistake and recognized the wrong person. Chapter 189. Let's not talk about whether or not they recognized the wrong person. Right now, both sides were talking back and forth and their eyes were filled with murderous intent. It looked like they were about to fight. Don't apologize. She's a bad person. She scolded me and Bao Bao. Fengwu looked at Qiu Ruoshui and the others with a firm expression. Her eyes even had a bit of accusation. That gaze made Qiu Ruoshui's teeth itch. Xiao Wu, I'm sorry. Ruoshui didn't mean to scold you. I'll apologize on her behalf. But no matter what, you shouldn't have hit people. Ruoshui is Ruobai Gija's little sister. You like Ruobai Gij so much, how could you bear to hurt the family he cares about? Feng Ting's words seemed to want to ease the conflict between the two sides, but it had the opposite effect. Qiu Ruoshui, who was already extremely angry, was about to go crazy when she heard her brother's name. She's worthy of liking my brother. She really doesn't know her own name. My brother is a genius magician. She's trash in both magic and martial arts, yet she dares to like my brother. She thinks she's amazing just because she's the Feng family's legitimate daughter. Let me tell you, in my eyes, you're just a trash. You're vicious and unlikable. Even Juntian Gij doesn't like you. If I were you, I wouldn't have the face to live in this world. You've already lost so much face, yet you still dare to live. Your skin is really thick. Thinking of her brother Qiu Ruobai, he was the most talented person in their Qiu family, yet he was targeted by a trash. This was simply an insult to her brother. Every time she thought of this matter, she regretted not taking advantage of the time when Fengwu was still in the Feng family to find an opportunity to teach her a lesson. You like her brother? Ting Feng looked back at Fengwu in shock. I don't know him. Fengwu shook her head with a stoic expression. The Fengwu girl expressed that she completely didn't understand what the other was saying. What brother? Liking? Bullying? What did all of this mean? Xiao Wu, how could you not know brother Ruobai? Didn't we grow up together? Feng Ting covered her mouth in shock, her eyes filled with disbelief. Tingting, why are you saying so much to her? This bad woman only knows how to bully you when she's in the Feng family. Don't worry about her. Let us get justice for Ruoshui first. Ning Fei pulled Fengwu behind him and pulled out the long sword in his hand. The tip of the sword was pointed at Fengwu. Apologize, or I will kill you. Ning Fei glared at Fengwu with hatred. That's right. Apologize immediately. Otherwise, you'll get it. Lu Zong chimed in from the side. The two's eyes were very unfriendly. It seemed that they were ready to attack. Looking at the two's appearance, even if they didn't kill Fengwu, they definitely wouldn't let her go. Because the degree of realism in the virtual world had reached 100%, one could feel the real pain if they were injured here. If they deliberately hurt Fengwu, it wouldn't be fun. What kind of ability are you two bullying a woman? If you have the ability, fight with us. Pei Qing pulled Ting Feng and stood in front of Fengwu. Come on, brother Pei Qing and stupid brother. You must hold on. Ting Yu took out a small white handkerchief from somewhere and waved it as she cheered. Stop waving it. If I didn't know, I would think that you're holding up the white handkerchief to surrender. Ting Feng couldn't stand it and roared. She still called him stupid. His sister was clearly the stupid one. Ting Yu thought about it and it seemed to be true. So she put away the white handkerchief and took out a red one. She continued to cheer and her good mood wasn't affected at all. Come on. Come on. Brother Pei Qing is stupid. Ting Feng, come on. Fengwu was speechless. Ning Fei and Lu Zong were speechless. You have to think clearly. Is it wise to be enemies with us for such a woman? Thinking that the two of them were deceived by Fengwu, Ning Fei also wanted to persuade them to think clearly and not do stupid things for a crooked tree. It's you two who should think clearly. Do you really want to fight with us for that stupid woman? Ting Feng picked her ears and glanced at Qiu Ruoshui with disdain. You're kind but unrewarded. How dare you speak ill of Ruoshui? Today, I must teach you a lesson on behalf of Ruoshui. The Ning family, like the Feng family, was an aristocratic family with a 1,000-year-old inheritance. In such a family, the sword skills collected were not a small number, and their grades were not low. As the young master of the Ning family, Ning Fei's sword skills were of a very high grade. Ning Fei used the sword skill of the intermediate sword skill and used all his strength. He was determined to kill Fengwu and others out of the virtual world. As for Fengwu's opponent, it was actually Ting Feng. Ting Feng blocked this move with a backhand sword, and then she was entangled with Ning Fei. The two of them fought back and forth with considerable strength, which surprised the people on Qiu Ruoshui's side. They thought that these people were just nobodies that Fengwu cheated from somewhere. They didn't expect that one of them actually had the strength equal to Ning Fei. Although Ning Fei's strength was not the highest among them, it was by no means low. Coupled with the Ning family's 1,000-year-old combat experience and superb sword skills, it was completely impossible for a sword master without any foundation to win against him. But now, this young man, who was not in their eyes, had the strength to surprise them. How could this not surprise them? Feng Ting slightly lowered her eyelids, and the hand holding the sword tightened. She didn't expect that after being kicked out of the Feng family, she would still be able to make such a powerful friend. This young man was able to fight evenly with Ning Fei, so he must be a descendant of an aristocratic family. Otherwise, with the Ning family's 1,000-year-old inheritance, it would be impossible for an ordinary sword master to block his attack. How could Fengwu's luck be so good? Thinking about herself, in order to obtain Feng Juantian's love and Qiu Ruobai's friendship, she schemed everywhere, deliberately angering Fengwu many times to raise her own image. It wasn't easy to make everyone think that she was a girl who constantly strived to improve herself. Even if she was suppressed by her jealous sister, she was still a strong and hard-working girl. In order to obtain Qiu Ruobai's good impression, she even tried every possible means to become friends with the bad-tempered Qiu Ruoshui, enduring her bad temper everywhere. She did so much, wasn't it just to replace Fengwu's position? When Fengwu unexpectedly got pregnant, she thought that Fengwu was dead for sure. Grandfather didn't like her, and her father didn't put much thought into her. Her mother was also a person made of water who only knew how to cry every day. Feng Juntian also didn't have much sibling affection for her. She thought that Fengwu's death was a foregone conclusion. She never thought that the entire Feng family would plead for Fengwu with her grandfather, and in the end, Fengwu would die. Although Fengwu was sent away, as long as Madame Lan was still here, Fengwu still had a chance to come back. She couldn't touch Madame Lan, but Fengwu had to die. As long as she died, she could become the Feng family's only young miss and no longer have to live a lowly life as a concubine's daughter. Chapter 190. She finally followed the people her grandfather sent and found the village where Fengwu was. After Qinglian and the others left, she bribed a group of fierce bandits to rob the village. She thought Fengwu was dead this time. She didn't expect to hear from her grandfather that Fengwu was still alive. How could her life be so tough? She escaped death twice. Now, not only was she alive, but she also knew a few friends who didn't seem to be simple. Why could Fengwu get what she wanted so easily, but she had to scheme everywhere? Was it just because Fengwu was the daughter of the first wife? She refused to accept it. Except for being the daughter of the first wife, she was inferior to Fengwu in every aspect. She would not lose to Fengwu. Fengwu, as long as I, Feng Ting, am alive, you can forget about returning to the Feng family. Don't even think about it in this lifetime. Qiu Ruoshui and the others didn't know that the strong and independent girl in their eyes had such deep hatred in her heart. All their attention was now attracted by the two people who were fighting. Lu Ning saw that the two were in a stalemate. He pulled out his sword and wanted to rush over to help. Unfortunately, he was stopped by a magic staff when he just gathered his duki and rushed over. Don't mess around. Your opponent is me. Pei Qing had long been on guard against someone coming to help. The moment he saw Lu Zong make a move, he had already held his magic staff in his hand. You're courting death. Lu Zong naturally wouldn't be polite to Pei Qing. He slashed his sword at Pei Qing without mercy. If he was hit, he would be directly killed out of the virtual world. The sword was very fast. The Lu family's swordsmanship had always been famous for its speed. If you wanted to break the Lu family's swordsmanship, you could only use your strength to resist unless you were faster than them. Sure enough, under the gaze of Qiu Ruoshui and the others, Lu Zong's long sword directly cut Pei Qing's head and split him in half. Lu Zong, you're awesome. Qiu Ruoshui shouted happily. Unfortunately, this joy did not last long. Lu Zong's expression changed, and he quickly turned around to block the attack. Seeing this, Qiu Ruoshui and Feng Ting realized that Lu Ning did not hit Pei Qing. It was just an afterimage. Originally, Lu Zong's speed was very advantageous in the battle, but he was unlucky. He just had to face a space mage. Who could be faster than a space mage? Pei Qing was different from ordinary magicians. Not only was his magic level not low, but he had also seriously studied martial arts for a period of time. Everyone knew that a magician's weakness was that he couldn't let his opponent take advantage of him. However, this weakness was not a problem for Pei Qing. Whether it was long-range attacks or close-range attacks, he should be able to handle them with ease. This person is very powerful. Not only is he a rare space mage, but he has also learned martial arts well. With his martial arts combined with magic attacks, Lu Zong is definitely not his opponent, Jean Li said faintly after watching for a while. Brotherly, are you just going to watch and not do anything? Qiu Ruoshui was so anxious that she stomped her feet. She did not want her friend to lose to Fengwu's people. Don't worry. He won't really die anyway. Jean Li stood aside silently and began to play dead. If you don't care, then forget it. I'll do it myself. Glaring at Jean Li, Qiu Ruoshui rushed forward with her magic staff. Feng Ting had no choice but to follow with her sword. Xiao Wu, tell your friend to stop. Don't make mistakes again. Feng Ting looked at Fengwu with heartache. The words that came out of her mouth were to push all the blame to Fengwu. He. Didn't you say that you're Xiao Wu's elder sister? Is there an elder sister like you? It's fine if you don't help when your younger sister is being scolded by a woman, but Fengwu has avenged herself and you still want Fengwu to apologize to her. Now it's even funnier. You're actually pushing all the blame to Xiao Wu. Who do you think you are? I've already recorded who's right and who's wrong with the impression stone. Do you want to find someone else to judge? Tingyu held a small white stone in her hand and proudly shook it. Originally, she had been recording with the image stone because she wanted to record the four of them killing the bandits. She didn't expect that she would record a good show. Feng Ting's face turned pale. She really did not expect that Fengwu's people would have such a trick up their sleeves. If what she did today was seen by her father, Madame Lan, and her grandfather, they would not forgive her. In her grandfather's eyes, no matter how bad Fengwu was, she was still a member of the Feng family and the legitimate daughter. She, a concubine's daughter, did not help her own people in front of outsiders. Instead, she helped Qiu Ruoshui. No matter what the relationship between the Feng family and the Qiu family was, in her grandfather's eyes, she was already a traitor. Qiu Ruoshui's face also changed. She also did not want this video to be spread. The Feng family and the Qiu family were old friends. The two families had been friends for thousands of years. Even if she looked down on Fengwu, she would never dare to say a bad word about her in front of the elders of the two families. At most, she would use some tricks behind her back to teach her a lesson. If this video was spread out and the Feng family and her elders saw it, then she would be in big trouble. Hand over the impression stone, Fengwu. I haven't seen you for more than a year. You've become so despicable and shameless. You even use such a dirty trick. Qiu Ruoshui was so angry that she scolded. You'd better pay attention to your image. I'm still recording here. If you piss me off, I'll sell the image in the impression stone to the Virtual Realm Daily News. Let's see what you can do. Tingyu was not afraid of her. She pointed the impression stone at Qiu Ruoshui and recorded happily. Although the virtual realm did not have a forum for all adventurers to communicate, there was a Virtual Realm Daily News. The Virtual Realm Daily News was founded by the Aborigines, but the concept of the newspaper was proposed by Longzi Gamer. When Longzi Gamer created the virtual realm, he created such a newspaper in the virtual realm. The Virtual Realm Daily News did nothing but pay attention to all kinds of gossip about adventurers and aborigines. If they sold the news to the Virtual Realm Daily News, not only could they take revenge on these two annoying women, but they could also make a small sum of money. Why not? Don't you dare. Qiu Ruoshui was so angry that her face turned green. Try me. Tingyu did not care at all. Instead, she continued to provoke her without fear of death. Tingting, do it. We can't let this impression stone leak out. Qiu Ruoshui was very anxious. After exchanging a look with Feng Ting, the two of them attacked Tingyu from the left and right. Tingyu was not easy to deal with. She took out her weapon from the space and fought with the two women. However, these two women, one was a sword master and the other was a magician. One of them attacked her from afar and the other from close range. It was still very difficult for her to deal with. Fortunately, she was not in a difficult situation for too long because Fengwu made her move. Fengwu used the fifth and sixth forms of the Luoying sword technique consecutively. She immediately lured away Qiu Ruoshui, who was helping from afar. Chapter 191. Qiu Ruoshui was a wood and water dual-element magician. Her strength was not bad. She was also a well-known little genius among the aristocratic ladies of the ancient eastern country. Unfortunately, her reputation as a genius didn't get through many battles. Compared to Fengwu, who fought with animals on Mount Ruihua every day, she naturally lacked a lot of battle experience. Everyone on the continent knew that most magicians had small long-range abilities. Once someone got close to them, they wouldn't be able to use any tricks no matter how many tricks they had. Originally, a magician wouldn't let someone get close to them so easily. However, Qiu Ruoxue didn't put Fengwu in her eyes. In her eyes, Fengwu was a good-for-nothing in both magic and qi. If Qiu Ruoxue was born on Earth in the 21st world, she would definitely know a phrase called the counterattack of a good-for-nothing. Unfortunately, this girl didn't know. It didn't matter if she didn't know. However, this girl thought highly of herself and despised Fengwu's predecessor from the bottom of her heart. In the end, this girl didn't think that Fengwu would pose any threat to her, so she didn't put up any defense against Fengwu at all. With Fengwu's 2 consecutive sword moves, the magic staff in Qiu Ruoxue's hand was easily sent flying. This simply stunned everyone's eyes. The people on Qiu Ruoxue's side didn't expect that a good-for-nothing in both magic and qi could defeat Qiu Ruoxue. This was fucking unscientific. Regardless of whether it was scientific or not, Qiu Ruoxue had already lost. Moreover, she had lost to someone she had always looked down on. This failure was countless times greater than losing to her own brother and a group of her brother's friends. It directly made Qiu Ruoxue stare at her hands blankly, completely unable to recover. Until now, she still couldn't believe that she had lost to a 2-element good-for-nothing. Jin Li, who hadn't made a move, frowned slightly when he saw this scene. He walked over with his long legs, picked up the magic staff that Fengwu had knocked down, and put it back in Qiu Ruoxue's hand. Stop fighting. Jin Li's voice was very calm, but there was an irresistible meaning in it. Ning Fei and Lu Zong were used to listening to Jin Li when their captain and vice-captain were not around. Naturally, they carried out Jin Li's orders immediately. The 2 of them quickly left the battlefield and flew back to Jin Li's side. Pei Qing and Ting Feng only raised their eyebrows, put away their weapons, and returned to stand beside Fengwu. Tingyu and Feng Ting had also stopped and returned to their respective teams. No. This was impossible. You can't practice magic or do qi. How could you possibly be my opponent? This is absolutely impossible. It was not until everyone returned to their respective teams that Qiu Ruoxue recovered from the blow of losing to Fengwu just now. She screamed and pointed her magic staff at Fengwu, her eyes filled with hatred and panic. That's enough. Let's go back to the city. Jin Li frowned secretly. Both sides were the sisters of his good friend. Even if Fengwu was not as favored as Qiu Ruoxue in the Qiu family, he didn't want these 2 to really fight in front of him. Are we just going to let them go? Ning Fei was still very unconvinced and didn't want to leave at all. Their equipment and weapons were clearly much better than theirs. If they fought for a long time, Fengwu's people might not be a match for them. But now, they had to retreat without a fight, which was unacceptable to Ning Fei. Tisk. Ting Feng heard the words and snorted disdainfully. What was this? Who wouldn't let go of who? Tingyu was naturally on the same side as her brother at this time. A pair of big eyes stared over him politely, and her small face pretended to be fierce and made a strange grimace. She must be Juentian's sister. What else do you want? The implication was that even if he didn't give face to the monk, he had to give face to the Buddha. I don't want this kind of sister. After fiercely glaring at Fengwu, Ning Fei said fiercely. Although his mouth was fierce, he had already put away his weapon. It seemed that he had thought it through. No, we can't just let it go. She slapped me twice. Should we just let her go? Qiu Ruoxue was very unconvinced. She had never been slapped since she was a child. If they just let Fengwu go, where would she put her face as the legitimate daughter of the Qiu family? You also scolded her for so long. You didn't lose anything. Jin Li saw it clearly from the beginning to the end. This matter was stirred up by Qiu Ruoxue from the beginning. Fengwu's side didn't want to pay attention to it at first. If Qiu Ruoxue didn't speak more and more harshly, the following things wouldn't have happened at all. Brother Jin Li, whose side are you on? Why are you helping this bitch? Xiao Ruoxue didn't expect Jin Li to say this at all. Her whole face turned blue. I won't help anyone. Jin Li's reaction was still indifferent. Take her away. Ruobai is still waiting for us. Let's not do this mission for now. In any case, they were doing this mission to pass time and wait for Qiu Ruobai to come up and find them. Now that the time was almost up, Qiu Ruobai should be arriving soon. Naturally, there was no need to continue doing this mission. Wait a minute, brotherly. We have to get the impression stone back. Right now, it didn't matter whether they fought or not. The most important thing was the impression stone. This impression stone couldn't be leaked out. If it was seen by the Feng family, she would be in big trouble. Feng Ting was extremely anxious in her heart, but it couldn't be seen on her face. Xiao Ruoxue thought that Feng Ting was concerned about getting the impression stone back for her and was secretly moved. She never thought that her best friend was only doing this for her own position in the Feng family. It doesn't matter if you don't get it back. Do you really think that they would dare to leak the contents of the impression stone if they aren't afraid that their good friend's past will be dug out by everyone? Jin Li faintly smiled and said as if he had a card up his sleeve. Ting Yu coldly snorted and turned her head away from them. Although she didn't want to admit it, she really didn't plan on leaking the impression stone. There were many Notre Dame du Starlight students in the virtual realm. If the contents of the impression stone leaked out, although Qiu Ruoxue's reputation would be damaged, Feng Wu's matter would definitely be brought up as well. She naturally wouldn't do such a stupid thing that would harm the enemy by 1,000 and harm themselves by 800. The reason why she took out the impression stone was only to anger the two women. Who knew that there would be a smart person in the other party who saw through all her concerns? Feng Ting was originally a smart girl. Just now, she had been disrupted by the sudden incident. Now that she was reminded by Jin Li, she naturally figured out the crux of the matter. Her originally worried heart finally settled down. Let's go. After Jin Li finished speaking, he led the way down the mountain. Of course, the few people behind him also followed. However, before they left, whether it was Qiu Ruoxue, Ning Fei, or Lu Zong, they all fiercely glared at Feng Wu and the people around her before they left. Only Feng Ting had a hesitant expression when she looked at Feng Wu. After glancing at Feng Wu awkwardly, Feng Ting also left. Suddenly, only Feng Wu's group of 4 were left on the entire mountainside. Chapter 192. The wind blew, and the grass swayed in the wind. The leaves rustled, and the sun shone warmly on their bodies, brightening their moods. After the last strike, a line of words appeared in front of the 4 of them. Extermination mission completed. Adventurers, please return to Xihua City to complete the mission and receive your reward. After the 4 of them killed the bandit leader, they received a number of gold coins, weapons, and materials. It was a bountiful harvest. After they went down the mountain and completed the mission, the 4 of them split the loot and wanted to find a place to have a big meal. Although the 4 of them weren't rich, the hotels and restaurants in the virtual dimension weren't too expensive. They had just made a small fortune from the mountain bandits and received the mission reward when they handed in the mission. Although their wallets weren't too big, they weren't too flat either. They could afford to go to a restaurant and have a big meal. The 4 of them chose a restaurant that looked decent and went in. They asked the waiter to bring them to a private room on the 2nd floor. The 4 of them ordered a table of dishes and were ready to eat. While waiting for the dishes, the 4 of them naturally chatted. Xiao Wu, when did you come to the virtual dimension? Ting Yu asked curiously as she held Feng Wu's hand. 3 days ago. Feng Wu thought about it expressionlessly. It seemed like it had been 3 days. Then we came earlier than you. We've been here for 7 days. I didn't expect that we would be so fated to meet in the same city in the virtual dimension. There are 4 main cities in the virtual dimension, and there's a 1 in 4 chance of meeting each other. We really are fated, Ting Feng said. Xiao Wu, aren't you curious as to why we have the sensor stone? Pei Qing saw that Fengwu had not asked this question, so he decided to lead Fengwu to ask first. Mission reward, Fengwu said matter-of-factly. Pei Qing almost spilled the tea in his hand, and Ting Feng choked on her own saliva. Ting Yu's jaw almost fell to the ground. The three of them looked at Fengwu in disbelief. When did Fengwu have the ability to predict the future? They hadn't seen each other for a while, but she knew so clearly what they hadn't talked about. This was too godly. You. How did you know? Ting Feng stuttered. Ajur told me, Fengwu girl said seriously. Boss Ajur was already so godly. Or was it that the captain had been paying attention to them? It turned out that the captain cared so much about them. He even knew that they had completed a mission and obtained 3 high-level sensor stones. He was too amazing. As expected of the inheritor of the 4 god seals. The 3 of them didn't think that this was actually a beautiful misunderstanding. When Fengwu and Ajur had talked about the sensor stone, Ajur had said that the sensor stone was rarely sold. If one wanted to obtain a sensor stone, it was usually obtained through completing a mission. In school, other than the elementary sensor stone that was given out at the beginning, if one wanted to obtain a higher level sensor stone, they could only obtain points through the school's missions. Once they had accumulated a certain amount of points, they could use the points to exchange for a better sensor stone. As for how good the sensor stone was, it depended on how many points you had. In other places, like the royal family and a few large families, the sensor stones were distributed in a similar way. So when Pei Qing asked Fengwu why they had obtained the sensor stone, Fengwu said that they obtained it from completing a mission. In fact, she didn't finish her sentence. What she meant was that they exchanged it for points through completing a mission. Because Fengwu didn't explain clearly, Pei Qing and the others misunderstood. The 3 of them thought that Ajur was actually still concerned about them. It had to be said that this was a beautiful misunderstanding. Captain actually cares about us so much. Even after returning to school, he has always been watching us. Ting Feng used her sleeve to wipe her tears. She had an indescribably moved expression on her face. Captain is too good. If we knew that he was so concerned about us, we would have gone to Notre Dame du Starlight to see him early on. Ting Yu also pretended to be moved. I used to think that Captain didn't want to pay attention to us. It turns out that I misunderstood him. Pei Qing had an expression of, I was wrong, on his face as he lowered his head and repented. Fengwu, what happened? Just then, the dishes were served. A large table of fish and meat was laid out on the table. The 4 of them chatted while eating, and soon forgot about Ajur. Xiao Wu, let me tell you, we were really lucky this time. Grand Duke Arnold's grandson actually went missing. He used 3 high-grade sensor stones as a reward to post a mission in the Adventurers Guild. At the time, there were hundreds of people who accepted this mission. We were really lucky. We actually met the human trafficker who kidnapped Grand Duke Arnold's grandson. That person wasn't very skilled and was sent flying by my idiot brother with a kick. That human trafficker was also unlucky. He confessed that he was just an ordinary person. A few days ago, someone hid a child in his house and gave him a lot of gold coins. In the end, that person didn't come to him for the child, so he had evil intentions. He wanted to sell the child for a sum of money. At the time, Grand Duke Arnold's grandson had already been changed into a commoner's clothes by that kidnapper. That's why the person who wanted to sell the child thought that it was just an ordinary child. If he knew that it was Grand Duke Arnold's grandson, he wouldn't have dared to do that even if he had 10 guts. After that, we easily rescued the child and even received 3 sensor stones as a reward. Aren't we very lucky? The 3 of them spoke one after another about how they obtained the sensor stones. Fengwu listened quietly as she ate, nodding her head from time to time. After the meal, Ting Feng and the other 2 left the ethereal realm because they had other matters to attend to. Feng Wu, on the other hand, continued to wander around the ethereal realm. After a round, she ran out of the city to look for trouble with those humanoid monsters. Compared to beast-shaped monsters, Feng Wu preferred humanoid monsters because beast-shaped monsters reminded her of her animal friends. She didn't think too much about humanoid monsters and didn't hesitate to kill them. Her efficiency was much higher than killing beast-shaped monsters. That girl is so powerful. She can actually kill so many humanoid monsters by herself. Not far away from Feng Wu, 2 boys and 3 girls happened to be looking in Feng Wu's direction. One of the girls even pointed at Feng Wu and exclaimed in surprise. The 3 girls were second-year students in the Notre Dame du Starlight's pharmacy department. They didn't have strong combat abilities, so the first thing they did after arriving in the ethereal plane was to find some strong men for them to rely on. The 3 of them were originally beauties, and with the Notre Dame du Starlight signboard, they actually found some spendthrifts who were willing to help them level up. Chapter 193. The 2 boys behind them were attracted by their status as Notre Dame du Starlight students and their beauty. What's so great about her? She's at least 30 years old. It's not strange for her to have such strength at such an age, another girl said with jealousy and disdain. I don't think so. She looks like she's only in her teens, the last girl said weakly. You idiot. Can't she use a prop? There are many props in the virtual world that can change one's appearance. I don't believe that a girl in her teens can fight so many humanoid monsters alone. Don't underestimate a woman's jealousy. Some women hated someone for no reason. Stan, do you think that person used a prop? I don't believe that her real age is what it looks like. The man named Stan looked at Feng Wu and then at the little beauty in front of him. There were indeed many props in the virtual world, but other than some masks that were easier to see through, the rest were not so easy to see through. He really couldn't tell whether the girl in front of him used a prop or not. It's hard to say. If she used a high-level prop, then it wouldn't be visible to the naked eye, Stan said after some consideration. Wait a minute. Why do I feel like I've seen this girl somewhere before? One of the girls suddenly said. What are you talking about, Nania? You've seen her before. Mei Li, who had been suspecting that Feng Wu had used a prop to change her age, frowned and asked. At the same time, she thought to herself that Nania actually found that girl familiar. Could it be that she was also a student of Notre Dame du Starlight? Thinking of this, the jealousy in her heart deepened. If she was really a student of Notre Dame du Starlight, then her age couldn't be faked. As a genius, Mei Li used to be in existence in her family. However, when she came to Notre Dame du Starlight, she realized that her vision was still too low. There were too many geniuses in this world. Every student of Notre Dame du Starlight was a genius. Mediocre people couldn't enter Notre Dame du Starlight. However, there were differences between geniuses. For example, after entering Notre Dame du Starlight, Mei Li was reduced to an ordinary person. Only those who surpassed most people could still maintain their genius title. Probably because she couldn't keep her title as a genius, she didn't know when it started, but Mei Li started to dislike those who had better talent than her. Even if she was a girl, if someone had better talent than her, she would always think of ways to mess with them. All of the genius girls that Mei Li had taken a fancy to had their reputations ruined by her. Outside, there were rumors that those girls bullied others and looked down on other students because of their talent. Only a small number of people knew that all of this was an illusion created by Mei Li and her little friends. Could she be from our school? Marcy asked doubtfully, coincidentally voicing out the suspicions in Mei Li's heart. The only 2 men present had the same expression as they kept their mouths shut. They were also curious about the girl's identity. Although powerful girls were not rare in the Mirage, it was rare to see such a young age. Ah! I remember now, isn't she that Feng Wu? Nania slapped her head and finally remembered Feng Wu's identity. Feng Wu. Ah! It's that Feng Wu. It can't be, the three of us are so lucky to be able to meet her even though the mirage is so big. It really is her. I've seen her from afar once before. If Nania hadn't mentioned it, I would have almost forgotten that there was such a person. Is she really your classmate? The boy named Sherdan curiously approached the three of them and asked. She's also a second year. Another boy named Saiban was also curious about this question. Mei Li snorted coldly and glanced at the two boys who asked the question, where did such a shameless woman come from in our second year? This woman is in her first year, a new student who just entered this year. So she's a freshman, but she's really amazing. A freshman with such strength, I'm afraid that she's definitely one of the best among the freshmen. No wonder you all know her. It seems like she's quite famous in your school. The two boys thought they understood each other. What nonsense are you talking about? Mei Li rolled her eyes at the two of them. She is very famous among the freshmen, but that is not a good reputation. Don't look at her young age, she is the only student in our school who has already given birth to a child. That's not all. She's already the mother of a child, and she's still going around seducing men. She's in our student cafeteria, and she confessed her love to the 5th year's chief, Senior Mingxi. I don't know where she got her face from. Furthermore, after being rejected, she became braver and braver, and kept pestering Senior Mingxi. Last time, Senior Mingxi and the others went to the Soya Empire to train, but in the end, I don't know where that Fengwu heard about it, but she actually shamelessly chased after him, and pestered Senior Mingxi all the way to the two-realm battlefield. She's really too shameless. The three girls began to criticize Fengwu one by one. Some of these were things they heard from other sources, and some were their own guesses. Mingxi's appearance was as beautiful as the moonlight, and his temperament was even more elegant and noble. In addition to the various guesses about his true identity in the school, Mingxi had always been the dream lover of most of the girls in the school. Mei Li and the other two naturally admired Mingxi, but unfortunately, a perfect and outstanding man like Mingxi was too far away from them. It was probably because they couldn't get him that they hated Fengwu so much when they saw a woman like Fengwu, who was already a mother, shamelessly chasing after Mingxi. Fengwu didn't know that she was hated by others again. The Fengwu girl was now very happy killing monsters. Every monster would drop a small amount of money. Being able to level up and pick up money, there was nothing more delightful than this. Steamed buns, delicious steamed buns. As Fengwu killed monsters, she thought about going to the city to buy steamed buns, and also some chicken drumsticks. Because she had entered the virtual world, Fengwu naturally couldn't bring many of the delicious food stored in her ring into the virtual world. Therefore, she had no choice but to work hard to make money to buy delicious food in order to fill up her spatial bag. While Fengwu was happily killing monsters, Mei Li and the other two were using a messenger familiar to inform someone about Fengwu. Half an hour later, Fengwu had already picked up many scattered copper coins. How many steamed buns could she buy with so many copper coins? Fengwu frowned, and began to recall how many copper coins she had picked up. Chapter 194. Big sister, can you bring me along? I don't know how to level by myself. A soft and cute baby voice suddenly sounded behind Fengwu. Fengwu instinctively turned around and saw a girl around her age looking at her with a red face. Her expression was shy and at a loss. Carry her. If that girl could read minds, she would definitely see the question marks in Fengwu's heart. How do I carry her? Where do I take her? The Fengwu girl's expressionless face perfectly concealed her ignorance. Where do I take you? Fengwu asked. Girl, she's doing this on purpose, right? Can you carry me to level up? I want to reach level 20 as soon as possible, but the monsters here are too strong. I can't deal with them alone. The girl's voice was full of grievance, and her eyes quickly reddened. From afar, it looked as if Fengwu was bullying her. No. Fengwu didn't even need to think before giving the answer. Ah. Originally, the girl thought that Fengwu would at least consider it. Who knew that Fengwu didn't even need to think before giving the answer? Big sister, I won't take advantage of you. I'll help you pick up bags. With me here, you don't need to stop picking up bags anymore. You can directly kill monsters. This way, it'll be much faster. The girl's baby voice carried a hint of urgency. No need. Fengwu still shook her head. If you want to level up, you can go to the city to do other quests. If you're not strong enough, it's best if you don't come out. Otherwise, you'll be a burden to others. Fengwu looked at her seriously for half a minute. After saying these words in a deadpan manner, she left without looking back. Don't go. You can't just leave like this. The girl looked at Fengwu's departing figure and was so angry that she stomped her feet. She couldn't maintain the cute expression on her face. Unfortunately, Fengwu did not pay any attention to her. She left the place where she had been farming monsters for over an hour and returned to the city. Not long after Fengwu left, Mei Li and the other two appeared. Behind Fengwu and the other two, a peerlessly beautiful woman walked out. Beside the woman, there was also a cute young girl with a confused look on her face. The young girl's eyes were filled with innocence and purity. She looked very spirited, giving people a good impression of her at first glance. Senior Dai En, I'm sorry, I failed. Her intuition is too strong. The girl who asked for help immediately said carefully when she saw the beautiful girl behind Messi. Her attitude was humble and fawning, and there was even a flattering smile on her face. It's not your fault. I'll think of another way to deal with her. The beautiful Dai En's red lips parted slightly, as if she didn't care at all. Big sister, what are you talking about? The confused young girl opened her bright eyes wide in curiosity. She looked as cute as a little rabbit. When the beautiful woman heard the young girl's voice, her originally cold face suddenly melted like snow. There was even a hint of a gentle smile on her face. Nothing much, Dai En. Nicole just wanted a classmate to help her level up, but that classmate rejected her. Dai En said casually. Oh. Dai En nodded. Her little face with some baby fat looked even cuter. That person doesn't love her classmates. Why don't you come with us to level up? Dai En thought of Nicole being rejected and felt a little sorry for her, so she kindly extended an invitation. Nicole's face stiffened when she heard this. She immediately shook her head. No need, no need. I still have things to do. Next time, Miss Dai En. Let's go Dai En. Big sister just saw a necklace that suits you. Wear that tribute necklace. The next time you see Ming Shi, you'll definitely charm him to death. Dai En teased. Big sister, I'm not talking to you anymore. Dai En shyly stomped her foot and ran away with a red face. You did well this time. These 3 pieces of silver equipment are your reward. With a wave of Dai En's hand, 3 silver staffs flew out and were delivered to Mei Li and the other 2. Thank you, Senior Dai En. The 3 of them happily accepted Dai En's reward, their faces filled with excitement. Nicole, try to get close to him again. If you still can't succeed, come find me again. After Dai En finished speaking, she chased after her younger sister and left. Fengwu was completely unaware of what had happened after she left. Not long after she returned to Huaxi City, Ajur came to the Mirage. Surprisingly, other than Ajur, Elena was also there. Fengwu, big sister hasn't seen you in a while. You're getting cuter and cuter. As soon as Elena saw Fengwu, she rushed up to Fengwu and gave her a bear hug. Those well-developed breasts buried Fengwu's entire face. Fengwu's face was flushed red, and she looked a little pitiful. In the end, Ajur couldn't stand it anymore and rescued her. Senior Elena, please don't bully Xiao Wu. Ajur didn't hesitate to save Fengwu, and he even scolded his senior sister for her insolence. Stingy. Elena snorted softly, but didn't say anything. She just pulled Funwu's hand, and the three of them walked into a decent-looking restaurant, ready to eat and catch up. Xiao Wu, you have to be careful when you're alone. Although the mirage isn't a real world, there are still many dangers for us. In this world, if we're injured by the same adventurer, we'll be forced out of the mirage, and our spirit will be greatly damaged. When that happens, even if we have spirit recovery potions, it'll take a long time for our spirit to recover. You have to be careful. Don't be so gullible as to believe what others say. If someone asks you for money or something, don't give it to them, okay? They're not good people. As Elena had a good impression of Funwu, she couldn't wait to pass on some of her experiences to Funwu as soon as she sat down. Funwu sat next to Elena obediently. Elena was in charge of talking, and she was in charge of nodding. Ajur asked Funwu about her experiences in the mirage. Funwu didn't hide anything, and told Ajur everything that had happened. From meeting the other members of the expert team, to meeting that strange group of people, to a strange person who ran out not long ago and asked to be taken along, she told him everything that she could. Pei Qing and the others are here, too. They even got an advanced sensory stone. They're really fucking lucky. Ajur thought that he wouldn't be able to hear news about Pei Qing and the others for a while. He didn't expect news about them to come so quickly. Do you know who those people are? They dared to cause trouble for Funwu and even dared to attack her. No matter who they were, he would definitely teach them a lesson. Ajur swore to himself. At this moment, Qiu Ruoxue, who was crying to her brother, suddenly shivered. What's going on? Her back was cold. Chapter 195. Funwu shook her head innocently. I don't know them. I don't like them. Funwu's animal instincts told her that she did not have a good impression of them. Got it, Ajur sneered. Tell me if you see them again. I'll help them loosen their muscles. Funwu nodded obediently, indicating that she would do as she was told. Xiao Wu, if someone asks you to carry their level in the future, you mustn't agree. Our main goal in the mirage is to train ourselves. If you carry them, you won't be helping them. Instead, you'll be hindering their development, Elena said worriedly to Funwu. I know. I won't carry them, Funwu said. Oh, right. Why didn't you carry that girl? Since when did Funwu become so smart? She actually knew how to reject other people's attempts to take advantage of her. Elena was pleased to see that Funwu had grown a lot after not seeing her for a while. However, she soon realized that she was overthinking things. The Funwu girl was still the same girl. She had not grown at all. Big brother Pei Qing said that we didn't come to the mirage to play. We're here to train. If we want to become stronger, we have to rely on ourselves. We can't rely on others, and we can't let others rely on us, Funwu said honestly after thinking about it. In reality, Pei Qing had not said all this because he had such high awareness. Instead, he was afraid that Funwu girl would be taken advantage of when they were not around. That would be very bad. That was why he had said all this in advance. He did not want others to see Funwu's naivety and take advantage of her. Pei Qing himself probably did not expect that his words would be effective so quickly. He had even helped Funwu avoid a plot against her. Elena and Ajur did not expect that Funwu had suddenly become so smart because Pei Qing had already spoken to her. The two of them simultaneously gave Pei Qing a thumbs up in their hearts. This guy was quite reliable sometimes. Elena did not stay in the mirage for too long. She left after meeting Funwu and the others for a meal. Just as Pei Qing had said, they still had to rely on themselves to train in the mirage. So, Elena did not plan to help them level up. That would not fulfill their purpose. Ajur stayed behind and brought Funwu to fight monsters. Since he knew that Fengwu liked small animals and preferred fighting humanoid monsters over animal monsters, Ajur directly brought Fengwu to a place with more humanoid monsters. The monsters in the virtual realm didn't have any intelligence. They were only endowed with fighting instincts. All their actions were controlled by the master god of this world. Fengwu and the others didn't feel guilty about killing humans when they fought. It was just that this world was too realistic. The strength of the humanoid monsters ranged from beginner sword master to advanced sword master. It was no different from fighting people in the outside world. In this world, it was not easy to fight 10 humanoid monsters at once, unless you had super strength that surpassed everyone else. This was also why Mei Li and the others felt disbelief and jealousy when they saw Fengwu sweeping through so many humanoid monsters. Ajur and Fengwu's levels were still low, so they could not go to high-level maps. They could only level up in this beginner's map. The levels of the monsters in the beginner's map were not high. Moreover, for people of Fengwu and Ajur's strength, they were not difficult to fight. However, there was no training effect. If they really wanted to improve their strength in battle, they could only go to higher-level maps and fight with stronger opponents. Fengwu and Ajur had always been good friends. Ajur even treated Fengwu as his own child. So, when the two of them fought monsters, their efficiency was very high. Their experience rose rapidly. At this rate, it would not be long before they could unlock a new map. In the Mirage, players would be able to enter a new map every 10 levels. The real experts had already gathered in the high-level maps. Those who would hang around in these small maps were not the best of the best. With entering a new map as their goal, the two of them quickly spent an hour grinding monsters, earning a lot of experience. If they continued at this rate, they might be able to enter a new level 20 map very quickly. Unfortunately, perhaps the heavens did not want them to live too peacefully. They had actually arranged for two people to disturb their leveling journey. Big sis, so you're here. That's great. Nicole has met Big Sis again. Big Sis, do you want to level up with Nicole? Nicole promises to be very, very obedient. I'll help you pick up your bags and I won't run around. Okay, that's right. The person who suddenly appeared and acted cute towards Fengwu was Nicole, who had been pestering Fengwu not long ago. Xiao Wu, when did you have a little sister? Ajur's lips curled into a sneer as he asked in a seemingly casual manner. I don't have a little sister. Fengwu looked at Nicole seriously before shaking her head. Isn't she your big sister? The man who came with Nicole was clearly of a rather high level. He was at least level 20. As they were unable to use Inspect on someone who was 10 levels higher than them, Fengwu and Ajur were naturally unable to determine the level of this man who came with the woman who called herself Nicole. At that moment, the man, who seemed to be of a higher level, was looking at Nicole and Fengwu in confusion. His rugged face was filled with confusion. He did not seem to understand why one of them kept calling Nicole Big Sis, while the other refused to admit that they were sisters. Big brother, are you saying that if I call you Big brother now, you'll really become my big brother? Ajur sent a humanoid monster flying with a kick as it tried to ambush him. That makes sense. The boorish man nodded. He actually seemed to agree. He recalled that the girl in front of him also seemed to call him Big Brother. It seemed that Nicole and her black-haired sister really were not related by blood. Nicole did not expect that the helper she had found would not help her at this crucial moment. Instead, he was dragging her down. She secretly gritted her teeth. If she had known this would happen, she would not have brought such an idiot along. If it weren't for the fact that he was the highest-leveled person she knew, she would not have bothered with this kind of man who was not handsome at all. Nicole was a standard beauty lover. She was only interested in good-looking men. Big sis, can you grind with us? Big brother Anston is really strong. With him around, we can level up even faster. Nicole looked at Fengwu eagerly, her eyes flashing with a glimmer that made one unable to refuse. This is Big Brother Anston, right? You don't mind bringing us 2 burdens? Ajur raised his eyebrows. This Anston was clearly an expert. Why would such a person want to help a smurf level up? You don't have to be so humble. I already saw your strength from afar. When I was your age, I did not have such skills. How can this kind of strength be called a burden? Anston waved his hand, looking at Funwu and Ajur with a hint of admiration. Chapter 196. Nicole's expression changed slightly. She didn't bring Anston here to make friends with them. Since no one has any objections, then it's settled. The 4 of us will level up together. With Big Brother Anston leading us, we'll be able to reach level 20 in no time. Nicole looked into the distance with a yearning look. Ajur didn't say anything else, tacitly agreeing to Nicole's suggestion. This Nicole had always wanted to get close to Funwu. He wanted to see what this woman was up to. Don't think that you'll be fine just because you have an expert with you. If you pissed me off, I'll teach you a lesson. Anston was indeed an expert. He killed the monsters cleanly, without the slightest bit of sloppiness. It was obvious that he was a veteran of the battlefield. Anston was indeed a veteran of the battlefield. He was originally a freelance mercenary and had always completed various missions alone. He was considered a relatively famous figure in the freelance mercenary world. Because he was a loner, he had encountered several life-threatening situations when entering and exiting dangerous places. In these dangerous situations, Anston's strength and combat awareness had improved significantly. Funwu and Ajur naturally didn't object to the addition of such an expert. However, they really didn't know what Nicole was doing in the virtual realm. After joining with Anston, she didn't do anything other than pick up items. Occasionally, she would be chased by monsters and had to be rescued by Anston several times. Ajur was speechless about that woman. Such a stupid woman really opened his eyes. In his opinion, even Eve and Rika, whom he didn't think highly of, were better than this woman. At the very least, no matter how bad their personalities were, they still knew how to help when it was necessary. They wouldn't be like this, always thinking of others to protect them. After fiercely despising Nicole in his heart, Ajur took the fruit from Anston. There wasn't much edible meat in this small map made up of humanoid monsters. Even Anston, the oldest brother, could only find some fruit for Funwu and the others to eat. Although he didn't want to admit it, this guy called Anston had a good character. He killed monsters when they needed to, and even took the initiative to find food for everyone to eat when they needed to replenish their stamina. Funwu took the fruit and took out 2 meat buns from her storage space. She started eating them in small bites. Her eyes lit up when she saw the meat buns. Sister Funwu, Nicole also wants to eat meat buns. Can you give me one? Nicole looked at Funwu pitifully, as if she would cry if Funwu rejected her. Funwu swallowed the bun in her mouth and looked at Nicole. Her oily lips gently spat out 2 words, no. Nicole didn't expect her to reject her so bluntly. Shouldn't she be giving the meat bun to her for the sake of her image? Wasn't this woman afraid that the man beside her would think that she was petty? Sister, can you really not give Nicole one? Nicole really wants to eat meat. Her voice became more and more aggrieved. Actually, she just wanted to cause trouble for Funwu. It would be best if this beautiful red-haired man beside her hated her, Nicole thought maliciously. As expected, Anston couldn't stand seeing her so pitiful. Sister Funwu, why don't you give one to Nicole? When we return to Shihua City, Brother Anston will buy you a lot of meat buns to eat, okay? He spoke to Funwu in a negotiating tone. He didn't express any dissatisfaction with Funwu. From Anston's point of view, it was just a matter of meat buns. Unfortunately, before Anston could finish, the last meat bun was eaten by Funwu. Don't underestimate Funwu's eating speed. Nicole and Anston were speechless. Brother Anston, I really want to eat meat. Nicole acted coquettishly and stared at Funwu accusingly. Anston was having a headache, but he couldn't bear to disappoint a gentle girl like Nicole. He could only look up at Fengwu, hoping that she would take out another meat bun. You really want to eat meat that much? Fengwu ignored Anston's gaze and looked at Nicole seriously. I really want to eat. Nicole pouted, her voice filled with unspeakable grievance. I know. Fengwu slowly got up and walked to the side of a humanoid monster. She killed it with a single slash of her sword. Nicole smiled triumphantly in her heart. Brother Ajur, does Sister Fengwu hate me? Nicole didn't do it on purpose. Can you help me explain to Sister? If worse comes to worst, Nicole won't eat meat. A pair of beautiful eyes stared at Ajur pitifully, looking extremely wronged. Nicole always knew how to use her looks to her advantage. She had completed an extremely difficult chain mission to obtain a permanent disguise item. She had created such an adorable and invincible face for herself. She knew all too well which expression of hers could arouse a man's pity the most. Ajur ate his fruit in silence, ignoring Nicole. Anston coughed awkwardly and took big bites of the apple in his hand. Huh? What is Sister Fengwu doing? Nicole suddenly realized that Fengwu was squatting beside the corpse of a humanoid monster. She was holding a short sword and waving it around. No matter how she looked at it, it was very strange. Ajur and Anston heard her and turned to look. Sure enough, they saw Fengwu squatting beside a corpse. They didn't know what she was doing. Sister Fengwu, don't be angry. Nicole didn't mean to make you angry. Nicole quickly ran over and shouted softly as she ran. She was just there to watch the show. Nicole thought that Fengwu had come here to abuse the corpse to vent her anger because she wasn't as popular with men as she was. Of course, she had to come and watch this kind of joke to her heart's content. Since Fengwu dared to refuse her, she would make Fengwu be hated by all men. Later, she would try her best to seduce that handsome man, Ajur. She didn't believe that with Ajur's looks, he would like a woman who had given birth to a bastard child. When the time came, as long as he discovered her charm, she would be able to make him grovel at her feet. The more Nicole thought about it, the more beautiful it became. Sister Fengwu, what are you doing? Anston walked over with Ajur. Ajur was also a little curious, but his instincts told him that it was better for him not to know. Which part do you like? Fengwu didn't answer directly. Instead, she turned her head and looked at Nicole. Her pink lips parted slightly. This couldn't be what they were thinking, right? Nicole's expression changed drastically. She looked at the humanoid monster's corpse on the ground that looked exactly like a real person. Her face suddenly paled, and she retreated 3 meters away from Fengwu. Chapter 197. You actually want to eat human flesh? Nicole screamed. You were the one who said you wanted to eat meat. Fengwu's expressionless face said confidently. This person was so strange. She was clearly the one who wanted to eat meat, wasn't she? There wasn't any beast meat here, and the only ones with meat were these humanoid monsters. That was why she wanted to get meat from these monsters for her to eat. She had already thought of a way to satisfy her request, so why was she still unhappy? With Fengwu's simple mind, she probably wouldn't have thought of it if no one told her. No one would happily accept someone's offer to eat human flesh. Cough, Xiao Wu, isn't this a bit too extreme? Even Ajur, who was used to being arrogant, had never thought of eating human flesh. But now, in front of her, Fengwu, who had always been an innocent girl, could actually ask her which part she liked without batting an eyelid. Ah! Who taught Fengwu to be like this, bastard? Get the hell over here, I promise I won't beat you to death. That's right, that's right. Fengwu sis, this is human flesh, not beast meat. Anston was about to burst into tears. You really couldn't judge a book by its cover. Who would have thought that such a cute girl would want to eat human flesh? As expected, this world was too scary. It was better for him to return to the real world. This is just a monster, not a real person. Fengwu looked at the three people seriously and said calmly. As she spoke, she tried to cut a piece of meat from the humanoid monster with her sword. Unfortunately, a line of words appeared in front of her when she cut. This is a humanoid monster. Cutting and dismembering is not allowed. P.S. It's wrong to eat humans. You can't be so extreme. Fengwu was silent. She put her sword back into the space. Seeing the weapon in Fengwu's hand disappear, the others finally let out a sigh of relief. Even if this isn't a real human, no normal person would want to eat it just by looking at it. Can you eat it? Anston said frantically. Nicole, who was hiding furthest away from Fengwu, nodded her head furiously. Not bad, not bad. This woman actually wants me to eat human flesh. It's too scary. She's not a normal human at all. If I had known, I wouldn't have volunteered to approach Fengwu. Nicole was crying in her heart. I'm not eating it. It's for her. Fengwu shook her head and pointed at Nicole. Of course, Fengwu wouldn't eat it. She had only thought of trying to get some meat from the humanoid monster after seeing how much Nicole wanted to eat. Who knew that the meat couldn't be cut off at all, so she could only give up. I don't want to eat meat. I don't want to eat meat. I want to eat fruit. Fruit is good. It can replenish energy and is good for the skin. I will eat fruit. I won't eat meat anymore. Nicole was afraid that Fengwu would really stuff a piece of human flesh into her mouth. As she spoke, she picked up the apple that hadn't been touched much and started eating it in big bites. Those who didn't know would think that she had been starving for several meals. Nicole was probably frightened by Fengwu, so she became much more well-behaved after that. She didn't run around to lure monsters to save her, nor did she make some self-righteous requests. She only looked at Fengwu from time to time like she was looking at a monster, as if she was afraid that Fengwu would rush over and eat her. While Fengwu was killing monsters and leveling up in the virtual world, Madame Lan was wiping her tears as she sent her son off at the entrance of the Feng family mansion. Tian, you have to bring your sister back. Your sister is too pitiful. You have to bring her back, okay? Madame Lan urged again and again, worried. Mother, don't worry. Big brother will definitely bring Xiao Wu back. Feng Ting had a decent smile on her lips as she stood obediently to the side. Madame Lan only glanced at her indifferently. She didn't say anything else. Feng Ting lowered her head sadly, looking a little pitiful. Feng Juntian saw this scene and frowned slightly. He wanted to say something to his mother for this stepsister of his, but he remembered that it wasn't easy for his mother either. As a junior, he didn't have the right to say anything bad about his mother. After Feng Juntian repeatedly promised that he would bring Fengwu back, Madame Lan finally let him go. Feng Ting watched as Feng Juntian left. Feng Ting wanted to help Madame Lan in, but Madame Lan ignored her outstretched hand. She wiped her tears as she silently walked into the Feng family mansion. Feng Ting lowered her head, feeling wronged. The servants around her sympathized with this young miss born of a concubine, but so what if they sympathized? Who told her to come from a dishonorable background? It was normal for Madame Lan to dislike her. Didn't they see that even the family head and master didn't care about her? Besides, Madame Lan was only a little cold to Miss Feng Ting. She didn't hit or scold her, and she didn't even deduct her monthly allowance. Compared to the other families that oppressed their daughters of concubines, this Madame Lan was already considered very kind. No one noticed that the moment Feng Ting lowered her head, the resentment in her eyes almost materialized. What was wrong with her? She was 100 times more outstanding than Fengwu, prettier than Fengwu, and more popular than Fengwu, but Madame Lan had always been cold to her. No matter how she tried to curry favor with her, it was useless. As expected, if they weren't biological mother and daughter, no matter how hard she tried, she wouldn't be able to gain Madame Lan's affection. Fortunately, after her hard work since she was young, Feng Juntian still liked her very much. Madame Lan's daughter, Fengwu, wasn't close to Feng Juntian at all. She still had a chance. She had to firmly grasp Feng Juntian's heart. She had to become Feng Juntian's most beloved younger sister. She stood there silently for a moment. When she raised her head again, it was that kind and strong Feng Ting again. Ting Ting. Feng Ting was about to return to her room when she heard someone calling her. She turned around and saw that it was her good friend, Qiu Ruoshui. Qiu Ruoshui was also a frequent guest of the Guan family. The servants didn't stop her and she easily entered the Feng family mansion. Ruoshui. Feng Ting smiled. She looked very happy that Qiu Ruoshui had come to find her. Ting Ting, I saw Brother Juntian walking towards the transportation array just now. Where is he going? Qiu Ruoshui had just brushed past Feng Juntian when she arrived. However, the two of them were quite a distance apart, so they didn't talk. Let's talk in my room. The two girls held hands and walked towards Feng Ting's room. Although Madame Lan didn't like Feng Ting, this concubine's daughter, she had never mistreated her materially. No one could find any fault with her. Feng Ting's room was also strictly decorated according to the standards of a concubine's daughter from a large family. When decorating, Madame Lan had even sent someone to ask for Feng Ting's opinion, so this room was completely decorated according to Feng Ting's taste. Chapter 198. Sometimes, Feng Ting would rather Lady Lan be like the legitimate mothers of other families and mistreat the children of concubines. That way, she could find a chance to act pitiful in front of her grandfather and father and sow discord between them in front of her brother. Unfortunately, this Lady Lan did not do anything wrong. She still remembered when she first returned to the Feng family, she saw Lady Lan crying all day and thought that she was weak and easy to bully. She even wanted to find a chance to make her father hate her and let her biological mother have the chance to take the position of the legitimate wife. That way, she could go from being a concubine's daughter who was not liked by people to the legitimate wife. After staying in the Feng family for a long time, she found out how naive her original thoughts were. As long as Feng Juntian was here, Lan Xiaodai could not step down. The mother of the future head of the family had to be the legitimate wife. Even if her father really hated Lan Xiaodai, he could not bring her mother into the family. Just her grandfather alone would not be enough. As for Lan Xiaodai, although she cried all day, she really did not do anything wrong. Also, when there were outsiders, she could act in line with the elegance and nobility of the Feng family's head madam. In these years in the Feng family, even she had to admit that Lan Xiaodai was much more outstanding than her mother. Her mother, who was a servant, could not catch up to her. The two girls naturally had to whisper behind closed doors. Qiu Ruoshui asked the question from before again. Feng Ting smiled slightly before saying, "Brother is going to pick up Fengwu." Qiu Ruoshui never would have thought that Feng Juntian left to do this. Thinking of Fengwu, Qiu Ruoshui became angry. What's going on? Didn't grandfather Feng dislike that Fengwu? Why did he suddenly change his mind and want to bring her back? Feng Ting poured a cup of tea for the two before saying, because Aunt wrote a letter saying that she was coming back from the Blood Moon Forest and also mentioned that she wanted to see Xiao Wu. Because of Aunt, grandfather agreed to let Xiao Wu come back to the Feng family. It's great that Xiao Wu can come back. Mother can finally see her biological daughter. Feng Ting was a little happy, but also a little sad. Qiu Ruoshui couldn't bear it when she saw her good friend's disappointed look. Ting Ting, don't be sad. Even if Fengwu comes back, so what? You are the eldest young miss of the Feng family. No family will let her enter the family after what she did. Ruoshui, don't say that. Xiao Wu is my sister. No matter what she did, I believe that she had her reasons. What difficulties could she have? She's just shameless. Qiu Ruoxue lifted her eyelids indifferently. Feng Ting looked at Qiu Ruoxue with disapproval. Alright, I won't talk about it, okay? At most, I won't talk about your sister. Let's talk about your aunt. Your aunt is really coming back. When I was young, I admired Aunt Tianqing the most. When will she arrive? Will she return to the Blood Moon Forest this time? When Qiu Ruoxue mentioned Feng Tianqing, her eyes sparkled as if she was looking at her idol. She should arrive in a few days. Aunt will stay for a long time this time. It doesn't look like something happened in the Blood Moon Forest. This time, there should be someone to replace Aunt. Something happened. What happened? Is Aunt Tianqing alright? Thinking that her idol might be injured, Qiu Ruoxue was anxious. She should be fine. However, the people who guarded the Blood Moon Forest with Aunt Tianqing are either dead or injured. Aunt Tianqing has guarded the Blood Moon Forest for 20 years. It's time for someone else to go. That's why she brought cousin Yanran back. You mean Feng Yanran? She's coming back. I haven't seen her for many years. I don't know if she's as beautiful and cute as when she was young. Thinking of Feng Yanran, Qiu Ruoxue thought of a little girl as beautiful as a doll. She should be as beautiful as when she was young. I haven't seen little sister Yanran for a long time. I really miss her. Thinking of Feng Yanran, Feng Ting's eyes dimmed. Fenwu was the Feng family's first wife's daughter. She was highly valued by her grandfather and father. However, Feng Yanran was an illegitimate daughter with an unknown father. She was more favored than all the younger generation in the family. It would be strange if she liked Feng Yanran. Of course, she wouldn't show such thoughts. She was the kind and brave Feng Ting. Naturally, no one noticed the conversation in Feng Ting's room. At this moment, Feng Juntian had already passed through 2 teleportation arrays and finally arrived at the central city. Fenwu didn't know that her cheap brother had already come to the central city to find her. She had just come out of the mirage and was enjoying the delicious lunch made by Tianyu. She was only halfway through her lunch when she was interrupted. Xiao Wu, big brother is here to pick you up. When Feng Juntian saw Fenwu in a blue dress, he suddenly felt his eyes sting. At this moment, Feng Juntian felt unprecedentedly nervous. He couldn't stop thinking about her reaction. Would she scold him? Would she chase him out with a broom? Or would she just ignore him? All kinds of guesses flashed past Feng Juntian's mind. However, he never expected that after hearing his words, Fenwu would put down her bowl and chopsticks and throw herself into his arms. The little hand that had taken the drumstick was still tightly hugging his waist. The greasy little hand had left 2 greasy marks on Feng Juntian's white robes. The corners of Tianyu's mouth twitched. She should at least wipe her hands. How expensive was that set of clothes? How could she use it to wipe her hands? Fortunately, Feng Juntian didn't care if his clothes were stained. He hugged Fenwu back as his heart swelled. He really didn't expect that Fenwu would take the initiative to hug him. Fenwu had never been close to him since they were young. Every time he wanted to get close to this little sister of his, Fenwu would hide far away from him. This was the first time in his life that his little sister took the initiative to hug him. What should he do? Big brother. Fenwu was in a good mood. She finally met her big brother. Her big brother was so handsome. Good girl. He patted his little sister's head. Xiao Wu, will you go home with big brother? Feng Juntian hugged Fenwu and asked carefully. However, Fenwu lifted her head from Feng Juntian's embrace. No, I can't go. Mingxi hasn't agreed to marry me. Fenwu shook her head decisively. Who is Mingxi? This was the first time Feng Juntian had heard of this name. He's Bao Bao's future father. Fenwu looked at Feng Juntian and said seriously. What? Feng Juntian was shocked. She wanted to find a father for her child. Xiao Wu, what kind of person is this Ming Shi? How much do you know about him? What if he's not a good person? The newly appointed sister-obsessed big brother had just acknowledged his little sister and he was already worried sick about her. Chapter 199. No matter who that Ming Shi was, in Feng Juentian's eyes, he was just a kidnapper who kidnapped innocent girls. Feng Wu couldn't understand her brother's feelings. She blinked and said, "He's a very good person, just like master." In Feng Wu's eyes, her master, who had raised her since she was young, was the best person in the world. No one could compare to him. "Master, when did you have a master?" Feng Juntian asked in confusion. Feng Wu pursed her lips and didn't say anything. She lowered her head, leaving Feng Juntian with a black crown. What was going on? Feng Juntian fell silent. It seemed like he had touched on a topic that he couldn't talk about. It was important to change the topic. "Xiao Wu, no matter who that Ming Shi is, go home with your brother first, okay? Grandpa, father, and mother are still waiting for you at home. Don't you want to see them?" Her lowered head finally lifted slowly. Grandpa, father, mother, these words had never appeared in her life before. That meant that other than her brother, she had other relatives too. Before she transmigrated, Feng Wu was very envious of others who had so many relatives. Now, she had them too. She was a little happy, but also a little hesitant. It wasn't easy for her to meet someone who met her master's criteria for a future husband. After leaving, would she still be able to see Ming Shi? Although she really wanted to see her family, she didn't want to never see Ming Shi again. Feng Wu girl was very distressed and didn't know how to choose. Will I still be able to see Ming Shi? Feng Wu asked her brother carefully. Her eyes were filled with anticipation and fear of disappointment. She was as adorable as a little animal. Of course you'll still be able to see him. We're just going home for the holidays. When school reopens, you'll be back again. No matter what, he had to call her over first. So she could still come back. The Feng Wu girl was satisfied and nodded. Let's go home together, brother. After having a delicious meal at Tianyue's house, Feng Wu took Little White and Little Bun with her and bid farewell to Tianyue's family. She promised that she would bring Tank some snacks from the ancient eastern countries when she came back. Only then did she wave her sleeves and leave with her brother. Outside the Feng residence, Feng Juntian and his younger sister, Feng Wu, stood outside the main entrance and accompanied Feng Wu as they looked around the main entrance. The Feng family's residence was naturally decorated with oriental characteristics. At the entrance were two red lacquered doors. At first glance, it gave people a dignified feeling. At the main entrance, 2 rows of servants were already standing in place, shouting to welcome eldest young master and second young master back home. The servants of the Feng family carefully sized up the young miss who had left home for more than a year. They felt that the young miss seemed to have changed a lot. In the past, she would get angry at the slightest thing. She was like a cannonball that would explode at the slightest provocation. But now, she had a wooden face the entire time. Her expressionless face looked much cuter than her angry face from before. That holy beast was carrying the young Mrs. Child, right? They didn't know if it was a boy or a girl. Back then, the young miss had gotten pregnant before marriage and was punished by the old master. Although the family head and the old master had ordered them to keep it a secret, there was no such thing as an impenetrable wall in the world. Moreover, it was such a big matter. Although it was impossible for everyone in Lanling City to know about it, some of the big families with some power basically knew about it. Although the ancient eastern country wasn't as strong as the 4 great empires where no one dared to provoke them, it was definitely not a small country. There were many big and small cities in the ancient eastern country. Lanling City was the capital of the ancient eastern country. In Lanling City, there were many aristocratic families that stood at the top of the pyramid of the ancient eastern country. The Feng family was such a 1,000-year-old aristocratic family. At the same time, it was also one of the top aristocratic families. Feng Juntian held Fenwu's hand and brought his younger sister into the grand entrance without looking at her. When the servants of the Feng family saw this scene, their jaws almost dropped from shock. It couldn't be. What did they see? They actually saw this pair of siblings who had always been at odds with each other walking hand in hand. This is too inconceivable. I must still be dreaming. I must be having an eye problem, it must be. I must go see a doctor later. Eldest young master and second young miss actually came back hand in hand. Could it be that the sky of the Feng family is about to change? Second young miss is actually holding hands with eldest young master. I'm really not dreaming. Feng Juntian didn't know that this group of servants who had serious expressions on their faces were actually crazily commenting in their hearts. If he knew, he would probably send all of them to the mines to work. When she saw Fenwu and Feng Juntian walk in hand, the person who was affected the most was undoubtedly Feng Ting. All this time, as a concubine sister who took it as her duty to drive a wedge between the siblings, the thing she didn't want to see the most was for the siblings to have a good relationship. If this pair of siblings had a good relationship, then would there still be a place for her? She wanted to be Feng Juntian's closest sister. She had worked hard for so many years, how could she let Fenwu turn it around so easily? No, she must think of another way. She definitely couldn't let them reconcile. At this moment, Feng Ting had a joyful smile on her face, but her heart was filled with hatred. She was determined to chase Fenwu away again. She definitely couldn't let her snatch away what she had fought so hard for. Grandfather, Xiao Wu is back. Feng Juntian let go of Fenwu's hand and bowed respectfully to the old man who was sitting on the main seat. Feng Wuliu looked expressionlessly at Fenwu and grunted. It was unknown what he was thinking. Was he happy about this granddaughter's return or was he indifferent? Xiao Wu, quickly greet grandfather. Madame Lan thought that Fenwu was still angry and tugged at Fenwu's sleeve. Her gentle face was filled with nervousness. Grandfather. Feng Wu obediently called him grandpa, but after that, she stood next to Feng Juntian without saying a word, as if she was a block of wood. Remember, you have to thank your aunt properly for being able to come back this time. If it wasn't for your aunt wanting to see you, don't even think about taking a step into the Feng family's door in this lifetime. Feng Wuliu got angry the moment he saw Fenwu. He really didn't understand how his Feng family could give birth to a descendant like Fenwu. He didn't blame her for not having talent. Since she was a girl, there was no need for her to inherit the family business. At most, he would find a good marriage for her in the future. Being a happy upper-class woman at home and helping her husband and children was also a good choice. However, this girl seemed to be born rebellious. She would always put on a face as if the entire family owed her. At home, she would snatch things from Feng Ting from time to time. Otherwise, she would scold the servants, saying that the servants looked down on her. Every time she went out, she would definitely get into trouble. In short, this child was a troublesome child since she was sensible. Chapter 200. He originally thought that this was already enough to make him angry, and nothing else could surpass this matter. He didn't expect that he had underestimated his granddaughter's ability to cause trouble. After leaving home and coming back, she was actually found to be pregnant. A 14-year-old little girl was actually pregnant. This wasn't the most infuriating thing. The most infuriating thing was that this girl actually said that she didn't know who the child's father was. When he asked her what happened, she couldn't say anything at all. Feng Wuliu could only think that this good-for-nothing granddaughter of his had fallen into someone else's trap. After all, no matter how good-for-nothing Fenwu was, he didn't believe that she would have the guts to have an affair with a man before they were even married. Although Fenwu was also a victim in this matter, he thought that the reason why things ended up like this was because this girl was too willful and ran away from home, giving an outsider the opportunity to take advantage of her. Every time he thought of this, he was furious. Say, how did their Feng family give birth to such a stupid granddaughter? What kind of sin did they commit? Don't worry, father. Fengwu already knows her mistake. She will definitely be obedient in the future. Madame Lan held Fengwu's small hand and quickly said. Why couldn't this child admit her mistake to her grandfather? If she continued to be so stubborn, her grandfather might get angry again. Xiao Wu, quickly tell grandfather that you know your mistake. Quickly say it. Afraid that old Master Feng might chase Fengwu out again in a fit of anger, Madame Lan pulled Fengwu until she was in tears. I was wrong. Although she didn't know what she did wrong, if admitting her mistake could make this madam stop crying, Fengwu wouldn't refuse to admit her mistake. Master said before that crying wasn't good and would make people weak. Seeing that she wasn't crying, this madam must be very weak. Originally, Fengwu thought that as long as she apologized, this crybaby madam would definitely stop crying. She didn't expect that she would cry even harder. Didn't she already say what she wanted? Why was she crying? What a strange person. Xiao Wu, Mommy's Xiao Wu, you've suffered. You must not have been able to eat or sleep well for the past few months. You still have to take care of the child alone. It's only been a few months, and even your personality has changed. When had Fengwu admitted her mistakes so easily in the past? Even if it was clearly her fault, she would not admit it so easily. Her stubbornness had made her suffer a lot. How much hardship did she have to go through to make her originally sharp character become like this? Poor Xiao Wu, it's all Mom's fault for not protecting you well. It's all Mom's fault. Only the sound of sobbing could be heard in the entire hall. Feng Tianqing was forced by his father's gaze to settle his wife quickly. He also knew that his wife was good at everything, but she loved to cry too much. She was often sad over small things, but his father had always admired strong and independent women. He hated it when women cried the most. Could not eat or sleep well. Fengwu thought about it. She had eaten delicious meat buns and barbecued meat. As for sleeping, Fengwu felt that the bed in the schoolroom was very soft. Although the bed in the guest room in Tianyu's house was a little hard, it was still quite comfortable, so she did not suffer. I don't suffer. I have meat buns and barbecued chicken legs to eat. The bed in the school is very soft. After thinking about it, she said, Xiao Bai helps me take care of the baby. It's not hard. Woo-woo. You used to only eat the meat of the demonic bull and never other meat. Now you've started to eat meat buns and chicken. My poor child. Great, the more she cried, the louder she cried. Fengwu did not know what to do. Why did she cry more and more? Master was right. Women who loved to cry were very troublesome, and she should never learn from her. Master was right. Enough, I'm still alive and well. What are you crying for? All of you, get out. Fengwu, stay. The old man slammed the table and the crying stopped immediately. Fengwu looked at the old man with admiration. He was so amazing. He only shouted once and the crybaby who claimed to be her mother stopped crying. Were all creatures like mothers crybabies? But Tianyu did not like to cry. How strange. Feng Wulu's mouth twitched when he realized that Fengwu was not afraid of him. She was even staring at him with sparkling eyes. This girl had lived outside for more than a year and had become more daring. If it was in the past, she would have cried silently with a face full of grievance. Madame Lan looked at Fengwu reluctantly. She was very worried that the old man would continue to be angry, but she did not dare to stay. After all, the old man had accumulated power in this family for a long time and no one dared to offend him. Feng Ting looked at all this with schadenfreude. She could not wait for the old man to lose his head in anger and kill Fengwu and her little vile spawn with one slap. Although she thought so in her heart, she showed a very concerned expression on her face. She looked like a good sister who cared about her younger sister. Feng Tianjun and his son were also very worried. The old man looked like he was still angry. Would it really be okay to leave the two of them alone like this? The father and son made a decision at the same time, which was to stand guard outside the door. If they heard any noise, they could rush in immediately to save them. After everyone left, Feng Wulu glared at Feng Wu angrily. He did not expect to find that this girl was really not afraid at all. If she was alone with him, her grandfather, in the past, this girl would have been scared to the point of trembling. How could she still be so calm? It seemed that going out for a period of time had its benefits. At least her timid personality had changed. Do you know your mistake? After a light cough, Feng Wulu spoke expressionlessly. I know. Feng Wu's eyes sparkled as she obediently replied. This person was really amazing. She heard her brother say that this person was her grandfather. In the future, she must become strong and become like her grandfather. One shout and no one would dare to cry. You and that boy from the Chiu family have fate. Don't think about him anymore. If you meet him in the future, find a good family. Who is that boy from the Chiu family? She blinked her big eyes. Who else could it be? Pretending to be confused at this time, are you still thinking about Chiu Ruobai? He thought that she had really let go, but he did not expect that she still could not let go of Chiu Ruobai. I'm not thinking about him. She did not know him. Forget it, I get angry when I see you. Leave the child here first. Go out and talk to your father. Feng Wulu waved his hand to drive her away. He was really not used to Feng Wu's expressionless face. Oh. Feng Wu nodded and left Xiao Bai and Feng Yi in the hall. Humph. Did she think that he did not know that the foolish father and son had been standing guard at the door? Who did they think he was that he could really kill his granddaughter? Seeing that Feng Wu had left, Feng Wulu took little Baozi from Xiao Bai's hands and looked at him carefully. Feng Wulu was still a stranger to little Baozi. Moreover, his embrace was a little uncomfortable. Little Baozi frowned and glared at him in displeasure. Chapter 201. Feng Wulu glared at him. Who is this child? The vice principal, that old fellow, said that this little fellow has a great background and told me to treat him well. He even said that I can't tell anyone about this little fellow's background. Fuck you, do I even know where this little fellow came from? If I want to say something, I need to have something to say. He told me to keep it a secret, but I didn't even tell him clearly. What an unreliable old fellow. Feng Wulu glared at little Bun as he muttered to himself. Luckily, he set up a barrier around him when he spoke, so no one could hear his voice. Xiao Wu, you finished chatting with grandfather so quickly. He originally thought that he would have to wait for a while, but he didn't expect to see Feng Wu come out so quickly. Where's the child? Feng Tianxing didn't see the Holy Mother Beast and the child that the Holy Mother Beast was carrying, so he felt a little puzzled. With grandfather, Feng Wu replied. With grandfather. Feng Tianxing and Feng Tianxing were both shocked. No way, grandfather was such a cold person, but he was actually interested in Feng Wu's child. This was too inconceivable. The two of them weren't worried that old Master Feng wanted to do something to Feng Wu's child. After all, old Master Feng was already a peerless expert standing at the top of this world. Why would he lower himself to make a move on an infant? It seems that although your grandfather didn't say it, he has already forgiven Xiao Wu. If it wasn't for that, he wouldn't want to get close to the child. Feng Tianxing was happy. On one side was his daughter, and on the other side was his father. The two of them being able to coexist peacefully was naturally a good thing for him. That's great, Xiao Wu. It seems that grandfather's anger has really subsided. Feng Juntian was also happy for his younger sister and patted her head. In this 1 year, Fenwu had indeed suffered a lot. Now that the bitterness was over, the sky was finally clear. Fenwu's return to the Feng family was a big deal in the Feng family. It wasn't a secret in the upper class of Lanling City. Many people didn't expect that Fenwu would come back one day. Generally speaking, it was already very benevolent of them not to be executed or driven out of the family after doing such a shameful thing. Even if they weren't driven out of the family or executed, it was impossible for such a person to return to the family with their original identity and continue to enjoy the family's treatment. Lanling City, Chiu Family Mansion, Chiu Ruobing's room. In that case, Fenwu is really back. The woman who spoke was dignified and beautiful. Her eyebrows were picturesque, and she was a beauty full of oriental temperament. The woman's jade-white hands were holding an expensive teacup carved from white jade. Her cherry-red lips were taking a light sip of the fragrant tea. Such a disgusting thing. Why did she come back? Grandpa Feng is really muddle-headed. Another woman sat elegantly in front of the window and trimmed the box in her hand. However, this time, she trimmed the wrong part. Sister Lan Zhou, what do we do now? I hate that woman as soon as I see her. I really don't understand why Grandpa Feng wants her to come back. She's always around my brother like a fly. Disgusting. Ever since she heard from Feng Ting that Fenwu was coming back, Chiu Ruoshui wanted to stay in the Feng family and give Fenwu a warning. It would be best if she could complain about her in front of Grandpa Feng. However, her sister, Chiu Ruobing, sent her a message saying that their good friend, Sister Lan Zhou, came to visit. She had no choice but to leave the Feng family and return to the Chiu family. Sister, don't talk nonsense. If you compare her to a fly, then what does that make Brother Ruobai? Chiu Ruobing glanced at her indifferently. She put down the potted plant in her hand and the scissors that her friends used to trim branches and leaves and sat beside Lan Zhou. Chiu Ruoshui also realized that her comparison was inappropriate after hearing her sister's words. She patted her mouth and playfully stuck out her tongue. I'm wrong. That thing is a dirty thing. It's too flattering to call her a fly. Ruoshui, why are you so angry? It's impossible for her and Brother Ruobai to be together. You should know that even if the relationship between your two families is good, and will not let Brother Ruobai marry a woman who has given birth to a child as his legal wife. Lan Zhou put down the teacup in her hand and stood elegantly. But I just hate her. I don't want to see her pestering my brother. She slapped me twice last time. That woman is disgusting and vicious. I wish she would be killed. You were slapped by her. Chiu Ruobing didn't expect that her sister, who had always been dull, would hide such an important thing. She dared to slap you. Even Lan Zhou widened her eyes in surprise. Why wouldn't she dare? She is getting bolder and bolder. She only dared to take a detour when she saw me before. Now she not only dares to talk back to me but also dares to slap me. Every time she thought of the 2 slaps she received, Chiu Ruoshui felt as if there was a fire burning in her heart. If so, then we really can't let her go. Chiu Ruobing's eyes darkened and a touch of deep thought flashed through her eyes. Sister, you and Sister Lan Zhou must help me avenge these 2 slaps. If it weren't for the fact that she wanted to persuade her sister and Lan Zhou to help her, she wouldn't have told them that she had been slapped by Feng Wu. Being slapped by a piece of trash wasn't something to be proud of. For Chiu Ruoshui, who had always cared about her reputation, it was even more unacceptable. Don't worry. It's Feng Wu's fault this time. Ruobing and I will definitely help you. Lan Zhou said softly with a loving smile on her face. That's great. Sister Lan Zhou, you're so nice. Chiu Ruoshui cheered. Feng Wu still didn't know that there were 3 girls eyeing her covetously. Her life these few days was very fulfilling. In the morning, she accompanied Madame Lan to read romance novels and played with Little Bun. In the afternoon, she accompanied Madame Lan to go shopping and watch a show. Occasionally, Feng Juntian would also go along, although he was dragged to the training room by his grandfather to practice swordsmanship most of the time. Feng Tianqing was busy dealing with the Feng family's matters and usually wouldn't accompany them. Madame Lan held her daughter's hand. The mother and daughter wore similar mother-daughter outfits as they walked side by side into a private room. This was the most famous theater in Lanling City. Many madams and young couples liked to come here to watch shows. Today, the theater was filled with a new drama called Dragon Slayer. The main plot of this drama was about a young man called Ao Liang. He was obsessed with swordsmanship since he was young. He traveled all over the world and visited countless famous teachers to learn profound swordsmanship. However, when he returned home after mastering his swordsmanship, he found that the village he lived in had been burned down by a fire-breathing dragon. Everyone in the village died, including Ao Liang's parents. After that, in order to avenge the villagers, Ao Liang went to the palace and obtained the royal family's sacred sword. Then, he went to the Dragon Island where the evil dragon lived and killed the fire-breathing dragon. Chapter 202. Because Ao Liang killed the dragon and saved the people of that country, they no longer had to live under the shadow of the evil dragon. To thank Ao Liang, the king betrothed the most beautiful princess of the country to him. From then on, Ao Liang and the princess lived a happy life together. In this movie, Ao Liang was played by a very handsome Asian man. This man was called Watson, and was an actor that Madame Lan liked very much. Every time he acted in a movie, Madame Lan would definitely be there to support him. At this time, the movie was at the scene where Watson found out that the village he grew up in had been slaughtered by the dragon. His father, family, and friends were all gone. He was devastated and swore to avenge the villagers. Wah, wah. Ao Liang is so pitiful. He lost his family at such a young age. It's so tragic. Wah. Madame Lan grabbed her handkerchief and cried as she wiped her tears. Fengwu, why is that dragon made of cloth? Actually, that was a fake dragon made of a type of magical material. The material was indeed like cloth. As long as a bit of fire magic was injected into it, it would immediately give the illusion that a dragon had appeared. It looked no different from the real thing. However, Fengwu's eyes were sharp. She immediately saw that the dragon flying around was just a fake. Why was that person crying so pitifully to a piece of cloth and even looking for a piece of cloth to take revenge? What a strange person. Wah, burp. Madame Lan, who was crying so hard, almost swallowed her own saliva. That sword is clearly an ordinary iron sword. Why is it a holy sword? Fengwu's expressionless face was full of confusion as she watched that person fight the dragon made of cloth for 300 rounds with the iron sword. Wah! Madame Lan bit her handkerchief. She didn't want to watch a movie with Xiao Wu anymore. How could she let people watch a good movie? Damn! Madame Lan, who wanted to watch a movie with her daughter, didn't dare to ask Fengwu to watch a movie with her anymore. If she couldn't watch a movie with her daughter, then she'd make pastries together. Mother and daughter making pastries together, just thinking about it made her happy. Madame Lan sent away the servants in the kitchen and brought her daughter with her. She wanted to experience the joy of cooking together with her daughter. When the finished product came out, Madame Lan immediately regretted it. What was this? It was clearly the same steps, but why was the thing made by his daughter black? Moreover, it was emitting a strange smoke. Would it really not die after eating this kind of thing? Fengwu looked at Madame Lan with sparkling eyes, anticipating Madame Lan's taste test. Qinglian stood at the side and watched this scene. She was very worried that if her mistress really ate it, she would be poisoned to death. It's okay. Don't worry if you're just a little bit off. You just need to practice more. Although what Madame Lan wanted to say to her daughter the most was that she hoped that she would never cook again in this lifetime, when she saw her daughter's adorable expectant expression, she couldn't bring herself to say anything. In the end, the words that came out of her mouth became like this. In the end, both mother and daughter ate the biscuits made by Madame Lan. The biscuits made by Fengwu had already been cleared away by the kitchen maids as dangerous items. Duh. Toothless' little mouth was wide open as he used the rocking drum as a weapon. His little arms were strong as he used the rocking drum to hit the bed. He was having a great time playing alone. Young master, come drink some milk. This is the milk of a level 5 magical beast. It's very delicious. A maidservant ignored Little White who was standing by the bed and walked in with a bottle of magical beast milk, smiling amiably. The originally harmless Holy Mother Beast Little White suddenly looked at the little maidservant who had just walked in with a warning expression. It was warning this little maidservant not to come any closer. Otherwise, it wouldn't be polite. Everyone knew that Holy Mother Beasts were very protective of their young. Once they saw you as an enemy, they wouldn't be polite. You're called Little White, right? Miss Fengwu asked me to bring this magical beast milk. Hurry and feed it to the young master. Fortunately, the maidservant didn't try to get close to Feng Yi. Instead, she looked at Little White and said innocently. Smack. The little maidservant didn't expect that not only would Little White not accept it, it would even wave its paw and the entire milk bottle fell to the ground. How can you do this? The little maidservant was very angry, but she couldn't reason with a magical beast. She secretly cursed her bad luck and glared at Little White, then picked up the milk bottle and walked out. Once the little maidservant left the room, she walked to a small corner that didn't attract too much attention. How is it? Did that little bastard drink it? A woman who was also wearing a maidservant's uniform saw the little maidservant come over and asked hurriedly. The little maidservant shook her head, Big Sister Ming Er, it can't be done. That Holy Mother Beast has been watching. She didn't let that little bastard drink the magical beast milk I sent. Trash. You can't even do such a small thing. I really don't know what the young miss saved you for. Ming Er pointed at the little maidservant's nose and scolded her. The little maidservant was scolded until she didn't dare to raise her head. She was very disdainful of Ming Er in her heart. If you have the ability, you can do it yourself. Why rely on me? After scolding a few more times, Ming Er finally flung her handkerchief and went back to report to her master. I'm sorry, young miss. That girl failed. Ming Er lowered her head and said respectfully. That child is a stain on our Feng family. I originally wanted to let him disappear without a trace to save our Feng family's face. I didn't expect. Ming Er, you disappoint me too much. Feng Ting coldly looked at Ming Er who was respectfully standing to the side. Her eyes flashed with a light that others couldn't understand. Young miss, please forgive me. Ming Er definitely won't fail again next time. Ming Er knelt down in fear. Forget it, get up. Now that I think about it, my idea of getting rid of that child was too immature. I'll drop this matter here. But young miss, letting that little bastard go like this is letting that trash Fengwu off too easily. Ming Er said unwillingly. Don't worry, I won't let her off. I am the Feng family's young miss. I definitely won't let that trash replace my position in Big Brother Juentian's heart. Feng Ting knew that her mentality had been a bit unstable recently. When she saw Feng Juntian treat Fengwu with a pampering expression, the string of reason in her heart snapped. In this family, her grandfather treated her coldly and her father didn't dote on her. Only Feng Juntian, this big brother, was very good to her. Because of Feng Juntian, she got to know many noble ladies and heirs that she couldn't get to know with her status. In order to gain Feng Juntian's favor, she put in a lot of effort and used all kinds of methods to let Feng Juntian see her tenacious and unyielding side. She knew that Feng Juntian admired the same kind of woman as her grandfather, a strong woman. If it wasn't for her father's deep love for Madame Lan, with Madame Lan's personality, she definitely wouldn't have been able to enter her grandfather's eyes. Chapter 203. She knew that it was impossible for her to curry favor with the three heads of the family. No matter how hard she tried, the three of them never doted on or ignored her. She was crazily jealous of Fengwu. Just because she was reincarnated into Madame Lan's daughter, she could gain everyone's attention without putting in any effort. Originally, Feng Juntian and Fengwu's relationship had always been bad. She even secretly mocked Fengwu. But now, Feng Juntian, whom she had tried so hard to win over for so long, had sided with Fengwu just like that. Feng Juntian was her only hope in the Feng family in the future. She didn't want anyone to share Feng Juntian's love with her. Seeing Feng Juntian dote on Fengwu more and more, she felt threatened. She had to get rid of Fengwu and make the Feng family completely give up on her. Originally, she wanted to kill Fengwu's son just to make Fengwu suffer and vent the resentment in her heart. But now that she thought about it, she was too irrational at the time. Wouldn't killing Fengwu's son be helping Fengwu? Without this son, there wouldn't be a ready-made stain. As long as that little bastard was around, it would undoubtedly remind everyone that Fengwu was a little slut who gave birth to a child out of wedlock. After thinking it through, Feng Ting's heart calmed down. She wasn't in a hurry. She wasn't the only one who wanted Fengwu to disappear. With her understanding of Qiu Ruoshui, it wouldn't be long before Qiu Ruoshui made a move against Fengwu. It was just that she didn't know how she would deal with Fengwu. If necessary, she might be able to add fuel to the fire from behind. Just as Feng Ting thought, Qiu Ruoshui and Qiu Ruobing had already thought of a vicious plan against Fengwu. And this plan would be carried out in the next few days. On this day, Fengwu was playing with little Bun in the garden when the maid suddenly brought over a young girl who was about the same age as Fengwu. "Second Miss Yi Lin is here." The maid stood aside and said respectfully. "Xiao Wu, why didn't you come and look for me when you came back? You don't know how bored I was when you weren't around. I didn't even have someone to talk to. You can leave first. I have something to say to your young miss." Yi Lin bluntly dismissed these maids. These maids all knew that Miss Yi Lin and second Miss Fengwu were best friends. Naturally, they didn't dare to disobey her. After the maids left, the girl named Yi Lin intimately wanted to hold Fengwu's hand. Unexpectedly, Fengwu, who had always been close to her, took 2 steps back and avoided her hand. Yi Lin was astonished. What was going on with Fengwu, this idiot? Did she discover something? But that was impossible. Fengwu was so stupid. What could she have discovered? "Who are you?" Fengwu hugged little Baozi and took 2 steps back. She pursed her lips and stared unblinkingly at this unknown girl in front of her. "What's wrong with you, Xiao Wu?" "I'm your cousin Yi Lin. I'm your eldest aunt's daughter. How could you forget me?" "No way." Amnesia. She hadn't heard her aunt mention Fengwu's amnesia. Could it be that she was angry? Was it because of her idea that caused her to have a vile spawn? Was that why she was pretending not to know her? "Xiao Wu, are you still angry with your cousin? Your cousin did it for your own good. That's why I suggested you go to the dense fog forest to search for the legendary marrow cleansing fruit. I didn't think that something like that would happen to you in the dense fog forest. Your cousin really didn't do it on purpose. Please don't be angry with your cousin. If possible, I'd rather the one who got into trouble was me." Yi Lin's eyes reddened as she spoke. She used the handkerchief she always carried to wipe her tears. She thought that Fengwu would immediately comfort her like before. After all, she was Fengwu's only friend since young. However, she was destined to miscalculate this time. Even in her dreams, she would never have thought that the real Fengwu had already died when she gave birth to the child. The one living in this body was just a soul from another world. The one who treated her as a friend or sister was the real Fengwu. The current Fengwu would not easily trust a girl who made her feel bad. Perhaps it was because the heavens doted on the naive. Fengwu had an extraordinary sense of value since she was young. She could tell who was sincere to her and who wasn't. Take Feng Juntian for example. When Fengwu first met him, she could feel his kindness and accepted his existence as an older brother. As for Feng Ting, although she kept saying that she was Fengwu's older sister, this older sister did not like her. In fact, she hated her. This was all that Fengwu could sense from Feng Ting. Because of this, Fengwu had never called Feng Ting older sister. Fortunately, the original Fengwu had never bothered with Feng Ting in the past, so no one suspected anything. Now, Fengwu felt that this girl's kindness was all fake. She could feel that this girl did not like her as much as Feng Ting. Unable to feel the kindness from this person who claimed to be her older cousin, Fengwu naturally did not believe her words. Although the Fengwu girl was not a smart girl, the instinct of a small animal to seek luck and avoid disaster existed. Yilin cried for a full 5 minutes. When she realized that Fengwu, who used to be so nice, was actually standing in the distance with the child in her arms without any intention of coming over to comfort her, Yilin almost did not know how to continue. No matter how many tricks she had up her sleeves, it was useless if no one was there to support her. What's going on? I saw Yilin crying from afar. Aren't you two sisters usually as close as the same person? What's going on today? Madame Lan noticed from afar that the atmosphere between this pair of cousins was not right, so she wanted to come over to see what was going on. When she got closer, the atmosphere between the two sisters became even stranger. One only cared about crying, while the other stood far away like a block of wood. There was no sign of their usual closeness. This made Madame Lan very puzzled. And finally, someone came over. Yilin breathed a sigh of relief. If there was no way out, she would not know how to end the situation. Why did this Fengwu become so difficult to deal with after going out? Could it be that she was too traumatized? Alright, Yilin, stop crying. Tell me what's going on. She walked over to Yilin and personally wiped her tears. It's nothing. I'm just blaming myself. When Xiao Wu was in trouble, I wasn't by her side. After the incident, I couldn't help her much either. I'm sad. Of course, Yilin could not tell the truth. No one knew the truth about Fengwu's accident except for her and Fengwu herself. If she told the truth and her grandfather's family found out that she was involved in Fengwu's pregnancy, Fengwu didn't know what her grandfather and uncle's family would do to her if they found out. Her father was only the head of a small family. She could not lose her grandfather's love and her uncle's love. Chapter 204. Madame Lan didn't know what her niece was thinking. She was quite touched to hear her concern for Fengwu. You're so considerate. I'm very pleased to know that you care so much about Xiao Wu. Her tears fell as she spoke. Madame Lan was easily moved by small things, and now, she was touched by Yilin's sisterly love. Aunt, don't cry. It's all my fault for making you sad, Yilin said softly. Madame Lan wiped her tears. It's not your fault, Yilin. I'm just too touched to see your sisterly love. Yilin comforted Madame Lan a little more, and the two of them almost hugged each other and cried. Fengwu, on the other hand, seemed to have been forgotten by the two of them. By the way, Yilin, why are you looking for Xiao Wu? Madame Lan finally stopped crying, probably because she had cried enough. It's like this. It's Women's Day in 3 days. I want to go with Xiao Wu to the river to release lanterns. Is that okay? Yilin didn't expect to be delayed for such a long time. If it weren't for the fact that Madame Lan was the wife of the head of the Feng clan and her aunt, she would have left long ago. She didn't have the time to be sad with her. She really didn't understand why her uncle had married such a crybaby. How could she teach her a lesson if she cried every day? Madame Lan didn't know that her niece despised her so much. Instead, she felt that Lin was a good person. She had almost forgotten about Women's Day, but Lin still came to invite Xiao Wu out. As expected, they were blood-related cousins. After agreeing to let Fengwu and Lin go out to release lanterns together, Fengwu was sold out by her mother just like that. Speaking of Women's Day, it was a festival unique to the ancient Eastern countries. Every year, on this day, whether it was the royal family, noble ladies, or commoners, they would all let their unmarried girls release lanterns at the women's river. It was said that as long as they wrote down their birthday and wishes on paper and put them in the lanterns, their wishes would come true. Regardless of whether the Daughters' River was really that efficacious or not, there would definitely be countless unmarried girls who would go to the Daughters' River to light their lanterns on this day. Daughters' Day was a big festival in the ancient Eastern country. Grandfather Feng had personally ordered the two young ladies to go to the Daughters' River. It didn't matter if they lit up the lanterns or not. On such a lively day, the two young ladies naturally had to go out and have some fun. Of course, Grandfather Feng wouldn't let the two young ladies go to the riverside to light the lanterns by themselves. He still let Feng Juntian accompany them. As for the little bun, Feng Yi, he was carried away by Madame Lan. Although this child's background wasn't too glorious, he was adorable and very good at pleasing people. In less than an hour, he made Madame Lan, who originally had a grudge against him, accept Feng Yi. Among the remaining beasts of the Feng family, the three siblings of the Feng family came to the area that was specially circled for the children of aristocratic families and aristocratic families. Although every household could light up their lanterns by the riverside, there was still a difference between aristocrats and commoners. Aristocrats had their own pride and naturally wouldn't squeeze together with commoners to light up their lanterns. In order to let the children of aristocrats have a place where they wouldn't be disturbed, the imperial family specially circled an area and built a garden and a bamboo house here. This allowed these young ladies to admire the flowers and light up their favorite lanterns by the riverside. The bamboo house was very big and was divided into 3 levels. The first level was for the daughters of some ordinary small aristocratic families. The second level was for the daughters of aristocratic families and some of the daughters of aristocratic families. Only the princesses of the imperial family or guests who were personally invited by the princesses could go up to the 3rd level. This small bamboo house was also divided into levels. No one dared to barge in here. Feng Wu and Feng Ting were naturally brought to the 2nd level. There were already some noble ladies sitting on the 2nd level. When these ladies saw Feng Wu, they began to whisper softly. Some of the bolder ones even pointed at her. Because Feng Juntian was a man, it wasn't convenient for him to enter the bamboo house where the female guests were resting, so he didn't come with them. This allowed these women to act without any scruples. All the noble ladies here knew that Feng Wu was impulsive and brainless. Every time she caused trouble, she would be the one to suffer. If she dared to cause trouble here, then so be it. The Empress had come early today. If she really dared to cause trouble, no matter how powerful the Feng family was, the Empress would still dare to punish her. These noble ladies all had very noble statuses. They didn't really hate Feng Wu that much, but they couldn't bear to see her unpresentable appearance. She was the dignified Feng family's daughter of the first wife. So what if she was a piece of trash? Didn't her family also place importance on her? Yet she couldn't see past it. Every time she went out, she would make her presence known. Once she heard the word trash, she would lose control. Because of her personality, who knew how many times she had been schemed against by others? Yet she didn't learn from her mistakes and fell into the same pit every time. They really didn't know how this kind of unpresentable person was born into the Feng family. Thinking that such a thing had sneaked into their class, these noble ladies naturally felt disgusted as if they had eaten a fly. It seemed that even their own style had dropped. Fengwu's scandal had already spread throughout the upper class. These noble ladies didn't sympathize with Fengwu at all for her ending. A piece of trash naturally should stay where she should be. People still needed to be clear about their own position. If she didn't have a big head, then she shouldn't wear such a big hat. Being a commoner was the most suitable for her. Just when everyone thought that Fengwu had already been kicked out of the Feng family to fend for herself, they didn't think that she would appear again. Thinking that such a thing would continue to disgust them, the noble ladies felt that even this daughter's day wasn't that happy. There was another reason why these noble ladies hated Fengwu so much that even they didn't want to admit it. It was because of jealousy. They were jealous that Fengwu didn't have to put in any effort to have her family love her. Even if she was a piece of trash, her family didn't give up on her. Yet she didn't live up to expectations. Thinking about themselves, in order to please their parents, they often forced themselves to do things that they didn't want to do. They also spent a lot of effort to learn those tiring talents. It was really infuriating to compare oneself to others. In short, for various reasons, in this circle, no noble lady liked the original body. It would be best if she disappeared forever. Of course, there were also some noble ladies who didn't care about Fengwu at all. They didn't even bother to look at her, let alone hate her. Fengwu had just gone up to the second floor when she felt the malice from these noble ladies. Their undisguised disgust and undisguised verbal humiliation shot towards Fengwu like a knife. Qiu Ruoshui and her sister Qiu Ruobing sat in a corner and sneered at Fengwu. Make a scene, make a scene. The bigger the better. Chapter 205. How does she still have the face to come? Look at her. I really don't know how an unchaste woman like her has the nerve to come out. She's just thick-skinned. She has the title of the Feng family's #1 trash, but hasn't she lived for so many years? A mere chastity is nothing to her. If I were her, I wouldn't have the face to go home. I really don't know why the Feng family would let such a shameful clansman go back. Yeah, if she was in my family, I would definitely beat that slut who ruined the family's reputation to death. The child is already born, yet she still dares to come and play with the river lanterns. I really don't know where she gets her face from. That's right. If I were her, I'd rather die. I wouldn't live to be a disgrace. The noble ladies who were spouting such vicious words were still elegant and noble. They didn't need to deliberately show it. The noble upbringing that was ingrained in their bones allowed them to maintain their elegance no matter where they were. If it was the original owner, she probably would have already rushed up like a madman and hit everyone she saw. The title of little evil girl wasn't for nothing. However, the one standing here now wasn't the original owner, but a new soul from another world. Xiao Wu, you're here. Why didn't you call me? A shout suddenly came from downstairs. This voice came from Yi Lin. Yi Lin was only the daughter of a small family's head. Although she was the daughter of the first wife, she didn't have the qualifications to go to the second floor. If Fengwu and the others didn't bring her, she wouldn't have the courage to come up. Oh, it's Yi Lin. Come up quickly. Feng Ting looked downstairs and waved for Yi Lin to come up. Yi Lin was angry. A concubine's daughter could actually go to the second floor that she couldn't go to. She once again blamed her mother. Why did she have to marry the heir of a small family like her father? With her identity as the daughter of the first wife of the Feng family, she could marry anyone she wanted. Now, she was reduced to being the wife of a small family's head. Yi Lin's mother, Madame Feng Tianjiao, was also a top figure in the past. As the eldest daughter of the Feng family, her limelight was unparalleled. Many people guessed which first-rate family she would marry into. No one would have thought that the heaven-blessed Feng Tianjiao would actually fall in love with the son of a small family and elope with him despite her family's opposition. Although she was caught after eloping for less than 2 hours, Feng Tianjiao didn't give up. She constantly went on a hunger strike to protest. In the end, she married the son of a small family as she wished, but the dowry wasn't much. After marriage, Feng Tianjiao's life wasn't as happy as she had imagined. It wasn't until she got married that she realized that life in a small family wasn't easy. Compared to her previous life, it was like heaven and earth. Unfortunately, it was too late for her to regret. There was no medicine for regret in this world. Yilin was Feng Tianjiao's eldest daughter. Feng Tianjiao gave birth to 2 sons and 3 daughters for that small family. It could be considered a prolific family. Because her children were good, although her life in that family couldn't be compared to the Feng family, it was still quite comfortable. No matter what, she was still the daughter of the first wife of the Feng family. That small family didn't dare to treat Feng Tianjiao badly even if they had the guts to borrow from the heavens. Probably because she was used to being angered by everyone, after Feng Tianjiao got married, she became more and more arrogant and despotic. Even Feng Wulu and Feng Tianxing had a helpless expression when they talked about their daughter and sister. If it wasn't for that bit of blood relationship, the Feng family probably wouldn't have cared about her long ago. After getting Feng Ting's approval, Yilin lifted her skirt and went upstairs. As soon as she came up, she stood beside Fengwu and Feng Ting. Her eyes looked around curiously. The surrounding young misses didn't even bother to look at her. No matter what, she was still the young miss of the Feng family. She looked like she hadn't seen the world and wasn't afraid of losing face. Yilin had always been a person with high standards but low abilities. She was spoiled by her good-for-nothing mother. If it wasn't for the fact that she knew how to act in front of the Feng family, she would have already been rejected by the head of the Feng family. Feng Ting hid the disdain in her eyes. Fengwu was only worthy of associating with such a person. She knew that this Yilin often spoke ill of Fengwu behind her back. The conflict between Fengwu and her 2 younger sisters had Yilin's shadow behind it. Fengwu only thought that Yilin was bullied by her 2 younger sisters at home and stood up for her to beat up her 2 cousins every time. The result was obvious. She was the bad person, but she didn't get any good words. Not only was she scolded by her family, she even offended her eldest aunt's family. She was simply a big idiot. Let's go. Let's go sit over there. Feng Ting pulled Fengwu's hand and pulled her to an empty seat. This seat wasn't bad. She could see the scenery of the garden and Daughter River. Xiao Wu, Feng Ting, have you 2 heard? Among the male guests that came this time, there is an important guest. Yilin lowered her voice mysteriously and pretended to be mysterious as she looked around. Important guests, could it be the 3 princes? Feng Ting said without much care. Every day, Daughter's Day was like a big blind date venue. There would always be many young masters from aristocratic families and people from the imperial family coming to support. Needless to say, there were a few couples that met on Daughter's Day. The 3 princes were frequent guests every year. Although there weren't many people who could get close to the 3 princes, this didn't affect the enthusiasm of the noble ladies. If she could become a prince's wife, she would be the object of envy of all the women in the country. Feng Ting didn't want to hook up with a prince to marry. First, her identity was there. The imperial family wouldn't let a concubine's daughter enter the door. Moreover, she had already found a target. Although she wanted the identity of a prince's wife, she didn't want it too much. In her heart, she was very disdainful of Yilin's wishful thinking. A daughter from a small family dared to dream about the position of a prince's wife. She really didn't know her own name. How could it be? This time it is a prince of the Silver Moon Ancient Kingdom. Although I don't know which prince it is a prince of the Silver Moon Ancient Kingdom. He is a true descendant of God. The more Yilin thought about it, the more excited she became. If she could get the prince's favor, why would she need to come and win over Fengwu? A prince of the Silver Moon Ancient Kingdom? Feng Ting almost cried out in surprise. No wonder there were more male guests in front of the bamboo house than in previous years. It turned out that such an important person had come. Feng Ting's heart suddenly became hot, but after thinking about it, she gave up. The prince of the Silver Moon Ancient Kingdom was most likely the target of the princess and the young ladies of the aristocratic families. She probably wouldn't even have the chance to get close. Although Feng Ting's heart was higher than the sky, she still knew her own name. She didn't dare to compete with the princess. If she succeeded, then it was fine. If she failed, then she would be blacklisted by the imperial family. This investment was too risky. Chapter 206. Lin didn't know what Feng Ting was thinking. She found it strange that the two of them didn't seem to know anything. In fact, Feng Wu and Feng Ting really didn't know about this. Madame Lan said, but she didn't think that the visit of the Silvermoon Ancient Kingdom's prince had anything to do with the girls of the Feng family. She knew her family's situation. Feng Wu was in such a big trouble now. It was basically impossible for her to find a high-status family. And because Feng Ting was a concubine's daughter, marrying an ordinary member of the imperial family was already considered a social climb. How could she marry into an empire like the Silvermoon Ancient Kingdom, which had divine bloodlines? Because of these reasons, Madame Lan didn't tell the two unmarried girls of the Feng family about the visit of the Silvermoon Ancient Kingdom's prince. Yes, I also heard about it from my mother. How come you didn't hear about it? Lin looked at Feng Wu and Feng Ting strangely. Impossible. Even her mother, who was the wife of a small family head, knew about it. How could these two young ladies of the Feng family not know about it? If it wasn't for the fact that she might attract the prince's attention by mingling with the noble ladies on the second floor, she wouldn't have gone to find Feng Wu. She knew Feng Wu well. In the past, Feng Wu never went up to the bamboo house on Daughter's Day. She would always leave after releasing the river lanterns. This time, she planned to drag Feng Wu up by force. She didn't expect that she would go up by herself. Although she didn't know why she changed so much, it was good for her, wasn't it? She didn't want to think about it. Lin secretly made up her mind. She must seize this opportunity to win the prince's heart. By then, she would be able to stand out from these noble ladies. Let's see who would dare to look down on her. The more Lin thought about it, the more beautiful it was. She seemed to see herself wearing the crown of imperial concubine and becoming the object of envy of all the unmarried girls of the Eastern Ancient Kingdom. Feng Wu silently ate the pastries on the table. She clearly did not care about the conversation between the two people beside her. The prince had nothing to do with her. Crunch, crunch. A fragrant and sweet biscuit was swallowed by Feng Wu in a few bites. She continued to reach for a piece of cake. The ancient Eastern country's daughter cakes were also very famous. On the day of the Daughter's Day, young girls would eat some cakes. This was a tradition of the Daughter's Day. The girl cakes in the bamboo house were all meticulously made by the imperial chefs. They were fragrant, soft, and had a hint of sweetness. They were very popular among the young girls. I don't know. Mother never mentioned this. Xiao Wu, do you know? Feng Ting couldn't help but suspect that Madame Lan was afraid that she would steal Feng Wu's limelight. Was that why she didn't tell her on purpose? Was she afraid that she would attract the prince's attention and live a better life than her daughter in the future? Feng Ting had never minded using the deepest malice to guess Madame Lan. She didn't believe that Madame Lan would treat her well. She didn't scold or beat her only because she wanted to maintain her virtuous reputation. Putting herself in her shoes, if her husband had children with another daughter, it would be strange if she treated them well. Feng Wu didn't stop chewing. She shook her head slightly, indicating that she didn't know about this either. Even Xiao Wu doesn't know. Feng Ting didn't believe it. She suspected that Feng Wu was deliberately pretending not to tell her. Fortunately, she didn't see that prince as a target, so she didn't lose anything. However, Feng Ting sneered in her heart. So what if Madame Lan didn't want her to marry well? She, Feng Ting, wouldn't be manipulated by her. Yes. Feng Wu nodded. She reached out her hand and continued to attack the next piece of cake. Ting Ting. Ruoshui, you're here too. I thought you were on the third floor with Princess Ronghua. Xiao Ruoshui was wearing a light pink dress today. She swayed as she walked over. She had obviously dressed up today. The material of her dress was made of a very rare magic material. The embroidery on her dress was obviously done with a special embroidery technique. There weren't too many accessories on her head. There was only a set of gemstone headwear of the same color as the dress. Although it looked simple, it was low-key and luxurious. Lan Zhou's sister is on the third floor with the princess. This year, 5 princesses from the royal family are up there. Even the empress is here. My sister is afraid that I'll say something wrong, so she won't let me go up. Xiao Ruoshui rolled her eyes and said playfully. Princess Ronghua was the third daughter of the current Heavenly Kingdom's king. She was ranked third among the princesses. Although she wasn't the eldest princess, she was the empress's daughter. Her status was very high. Xiao Ruoshui's sister, Qiu Ruobing, had always been on good terms with Princess Ronghua. Among the young girls of the ancient eastern country, there were 3 recognized as the most outstanding women. The first was Princess Ronghua, the third princess of the ancient eastern country. The second was Lan Zhou, the first daughter of the Lan family. The third was Qiu Ruobing of the Qiu family. Each of these 3 women had a peerless beauty that could cause the downfall of a country. There were simply too many pursuers to count. Because the status of the 3 women was very high, the empress specially prepared for Lan Zhou and Qiu Ruobing to go up to the third floor. In the past, every year on Daughter's Day, Qiu Ruobing would take her sister Qiu Ruoshui up to the third floor to show her face among the empress and the princesses. But this year was different. Today, Princess Ronghua had found her sweetheart, and she had the intention of marrying no one but him. Qiu Ruobing had always been a smart woman. She knew that Qiu Ruoshui had always been unrestrained and heartless. Usually, it was okay, but now it was the sensitive period when Princess Ronghua wanted to capture the heart of that person. If Qiu Ruoshui said something that shouldn't be said, then her relationship with Princess Ronghua would definitely be affected. I see. Ruoshui, come and sit down. Don't stand there. Feng Ting took Qiu Ruoshui's hand and let her sit next to her. Miss Ruoshui, you are so beautiful today. You deserve to be the first daughter of the Qiu family. Lin came up with a flattering face and flattered. Lin had always been jealous of the good relationship between Feng Ting and Qiu Ruoshui. How could a mere daughter of a concubine know such a high-status friend? It was simply unfair. Because of the resentment in her heart, every time she had a chance to get close to Qiu Ruoshui and her sister, Lin would never let go of any opportunity to flatter them. I am beautiful every day. You don't have to tell me that. Qiu Ruoshui glanced at her impolitely. She looked down on Lin, who wanted to flatter noble girls all day long. Only Feng Wu, who was not presentable, would treat such a person as a friend. I said something wrong. I said something wrong. Miss Ruoshui, you are so beautiful every day. After getting snubbed, Lin didn't insist on flattering him. She sat quietly at the side and didn't say anything. Chapter 207. Xiao Wu, don't just eat desserts. Drink some tea. This is crouching dragon flower tea. Only the palace has it. It's not easy for us to drink it normally. Qiu Ruoshui and Feng Ting sat on the side and chatted, ignoring her. Lin could only focus her attention on Feng Wu. This crouching dragon flower was a special flower on a certain mountain in the ancient eastern country. This flower's fragrance could spread for hundreds of miles. If a woman drank it often, she would not age and her skin would always be tender and lustrous like a young girl. Later on, someone made crouching dragon flower into tea and it became a tribute for the royal family. Other than a few large aristocratic families who could obtain some through special channels, it could be said that it was almost impossible for others to obtain it. Every year on Daughter's Day, the royal family would provide crouching dragon flower tea to the female guests in the bamboo house. This was also the only chance that the noble ladies of small aristocratic families had to drink crouching dragon flower tea every year. As Lin spoke, she had already poured a cup for herself and drank a big mouthful with a face of enjoyment. Fengwu saw that the crouching dragon flower tea was bright red in color and had a fresh fragrance. She also poured a cup for herself. After drinking it, Fengwu's eyes lit up. It was delicious. After drinking a few more mouthfuls, Fengwu then started to eat the daughter cakes and shortbread. Fengwu, who was busy eating, did not notice that Qiu Ruoshui, who had ignored Lin just now, actually gave her a look of praise. Feng Ting did notice it, but she was happy to see Fengwu be unlucky, so she naturally did not speak up to remind her. The noble ladies on the second floor admired the flowers and the scenery as they drank tea and chatted. Soon, it was time to release the lanterns. The sky was filled with sparkling fireworks and a dazzling firework started to bloom in the air. When the noble ladies saw this beautiful firework, they could not sit still and started to walk towards the garden in twos and threes. In front of the garden was the Daughter River. The noblewomen's river lanterns were all brought from their own homes. Each noblewoman could bring a maid with her. However, the maids were not allowed to enter the bamboo building. They could only wait outside the building. Fengwu's maidservant Qing and Feng Ting's maidservant Ming naturally followed. The two girls each held a river lantern and waited quietly in the room provided for maidservants to rest under the bamboo building. Jun Tian, what's wrong with you today? Why are you looking at the bamboo house? Are you worried about Feng Ting? Qiu Ruobai had long noticed that something was wrong with her good friend. From time to time, she would look at the bamboo building, so she guessed. Xiao Wu is also participating in the bamboo house's gathering this time. I'm a little worried that she will be bullied. Feng Juntian didn't hide anything and told his friend about his worries. Vice Captain, why are you worried about that bad woman? Last time she hit Ruoshui. Who can bully her when she's so fierce? Ning Fei said indifferently. That's right. That woman is so bad. Vice Captain, you should be more concerned about Fengwu. How can she be qualified to be your sister? Lu Zong looked in the direction of the bamboo house with disdain. Lu Zong, I treat you as a friend. If you also treat me as a friend, please don't talk about Xiao Wu like that. Feng Juntian coldly looked at the two of them. Because he had already decided to be a good brother, he naturally didn't want his good friend to say anything bad about his sister. Lu Zong and Ning Fei exchanged a look. They understood Feng Juntian and could tell that he was serious. No matter how much they hated Fengwu, they didn't want to fall out with their good friend because of that woman. Thus, the two of them obediently shut their mouths. This was the first time Qiu Ruobai had heard about her younger sister being beaten. Her two younger sisters were the treasures of the family. Normally, they were extremely spoiled. Since they were young, not a single finger had been touched. Now, she actually heard her two good friends say that her younger sister was beaten. Moreover, the one who did it was Fengwu, who was recognized by the entire ancient eastern country as trash. No matter how she thought about it, this matter was too fantastical. Qiu Ruobai, who had been smiling lightly, almost couldn't smile for the first time. Thinking about Fengwu's trash strength, even if her younger sister wasn't a peerless expert, dealing with a trash was definitely not a problem. Thus, when she first heard about this matter, Qiu Ruobai's first reaction was disbelief. You said that Fengwu hit Ruoshui. What happened? Although she didn't think this matter was true, she still understood these two good friends. These two had always been good friends with Ruoxue. It was impossible for them to make such a joke about Ruoxue. Ning Fei and Lu Zong carefully glanced at Feng Juntian. This wasn't what they wanted to say. They only said it because the captain asked them. At worst, they wouldn't say anything bad about Fengwu. Thus, the two of them said that Qiu Ruoxue's one-sided provocation was that the two girls accidentally met in the mirage and then quarreled. In the end, Fengwu flew into a rage out of humiliation and hit Qiu Ruoxue. After hitting her, not only did she not apologize, but she also spoke ill of her. In the end, they didn't pursue the matter and let Fengwu go because of the vice-captain. Qiu Ruobai pressed her throbbing forehead. Did these two people think that she didn't know their personalities? She was afraid that she would only listen to half of what they said. Jean Li, you tell us. Compared to those two unreliable fellows, she still believed in the steady Jean Li more. When we were doing a mission in the Mirage, we met Fengwu and her friends. Ruoxue went up to provoke them and said a lot of unpleasant things. We didn't know when Fengwu's strength increased greatly, but when we let our guard down, she slapped Ruoxue twice. Later, Yu Zong and Ning Fei asked Fengwu to apologize, but Fengwu refused no matter what. The two of them then fought with Fengwu's friends. Unexpectedly, one of Fengwu's friends used an image stone to record the scene. In order to not let this matter escalate, I took Ruoxue and the two of them and left first. Jean Li's narration of the matter was much more objective. He didn't add too many personal opinions into it. Overall, it was quite pertinent. It turns out that after Ruoxue came back that day, she kept pestering me and telling me to ignore Fengwu. She even scolded Fengwu in front of me and asked her what happened. She only said that Fengwu hadn't given up on me and wanted to use her and Feng Ting to get close to me. Now that I think about it, Ruoxue felt that she had lost face after being slapped by Fengwu and didn't dare to tell me the truth. That's why she said that Fengwu hadn't given up on me and wanted me to help her teach Fengwu a lesson. Qiu Ruobai rubbed her chin and turned to look at Feng Juntian. Juntian, my sister can't be beaten for nothing. Feng Juntian's expression was somewhat unsightly. He knew that the Qiu family was very protective of their own. If he didn't give an explanation, he was afraid that Qiu Ruobai would personally seek justice for her sister. At that time, Fengwu definitely wouldn't be able to resist. As a good friend of Qiu Ruobai who grew up together, he deeply understood how ruthless this man's heart was hidden under his handsome appearance. Chapter 208. I will make her apologize to Ruoxue. No matter what, she shouldn't have hit her. Feng Juntian made a serious promise. After all, Fengwu was in the wrong. No matter what, it was unreasonable to hit her first. Fortunately, with the relationship between the two families, an apology should be able to solve the problem. Fengwu didn't know that her brother had discussed with Qiu Ruobai to make her apologize behind her back. She was now walking out of the bamboo house with Feng Ting and the others. Outside the bamboo house, there was already a lot of noise and it was very lively. Qiu Ruoxue didn't return to her sister's side. Instead, she pulled Feng Ting to Fengwu's side. Occasionally, she would smile maliciously, which made people feel frightened. The excitement in Qiu Ruoxue's eyes was almost unconcealable. The smile on her face grew bigger and bigger. She couldn't wait to see Fengwu's unlucky appearance. In the garden, many male guests began to look for noble ladies they were interested in. It was rare to have such an opportunity. It would be good if they could make a good match. Not long after, several couples had successfully struck up a conversation. Although Feng Ting was a concubine's daughter, she was beautiful and charming. Many male guests were inquiring about her identity. Although the status of a concubine's daughter couldn't compare to that of a legitimate daughter, her talent was much better than that of a legitimate daughter. Even her reputation was much better than that of Fengwu. Many men still wanted to get in touch with Feng Ting. It would be good if they could succeed. Unfortunately, Feng Ting's heart belonged to someone else. She maintained a polite smile to these male guests who came forward to strike up a conversation. She always tactfully rejected others' advances with a gentle and generous attitude. Even those who were rejected couldn't resent her. There were also many male guests who came forward to strike up a conversation with Qiu Ruoshui. As the second legitimate daughter of the Qiu family, Qiu Ruoshui's status was much higher than Feng Ting's. The men who came to strike up a conversation with her were naturally not on the same level as those who struck up a conversation with Feng Ting. Feng Ting was envious in her heart, but the expression on her face was indifferent. No one could tell what she was thinking. Yi Lin, on the other hand, was very unconvinced when she saw so many men surrounding the two of them. Why? No matter what, she was the young miss of the Feng family. Why didn't a single man come to strike up a conversation with her? What kind of taste did these men have? Xiao Wu. Feng Wu was watching the fireworks when she suddenly heard her brother's voice behind her. She turned around happily. Sure enough, she saw her elder brother looking at her with a smile. Standing beside her elder brother were those annoying people who helped the bad guys. Although Feng Wu didn't care about Qiu Ruoshui following her, she still couldn't like someone who scolded Little Bun. When Ning Fei and Lu Zong saw Feng Wu, they also snorted disdainfully. Since Feng Juntian was present, they didn't say anything unpleasant. Big brother. Feng Wu ran into Feng Juntian's embrace, her little head happily rubbing against her big brother's clothes. Ning Fei and Lu Zong instantly opened their mouths wide, as if they couldn't believe that the person in front of them was the Feng Wu they used to know. Who didn't know that the person Feng Wu hated the most was her brother, Feng Juntian. Normally, the two siblings wouldn't even talk to each other. But now, she suddenly ran over and called him big brother so intimately. This wasn't right, it was very wrong. Could it be that she wanted to take revenge and break up their friendship from the inside? The more they looked at it, the more it seemed like this was the case. This woman was still as vicious as before. She was really too hateful. Qiu Ruobai looked at the affectionate siblings and thoughtfully rubbed her chin. She couldn't understand what Feng Wu wanted to do. Xiao Wu, were you obedient just now? No one bullied you, right? Feng Juntian was worried that Feng Wu would be bullied. He was also worried that Feng Wu would be impulsive and start fighting with others because of a few words. When they returned home, he was afraid that his grandfather would be angry again. I was obedient. No one bullied me. Feng Wu obediently allowed her brother to pat her head as she spoke seriously. That's good. Feng Juntian smiled dotingly and rubbed his sister's head twice. Big brother. Feng Ting looked at the affectionate scene between the siblings and felt uncomfortable. Did Feng Juntian only like Feng Wu and no longer care about her, this concubine-born sister? She didn't want to be ignored and she didn't want Feng Juntian to only dote on Feng Wu as his little sister. Thus, she spoke up, her voice somewhat aggrieved. Ting Ting. Feng Juntian turned his gaze to Feng Ting and responded. Feng Ting felt even more uncomfortable in her heart. Before Feng Wu returned, she was her big brother's only little sister. But now, with the addition of Feng Wu, she, who had been close to Feng Juntian for more than 10 years, was like an extra button. As expected, if they weren't born from the same mother, then there was a layer separating them. No matter how hard she tried, she couldn't make up for it. Vice Captain, don't forget. You promised the captain that you would make this bad. Feng Wu apologize. Ning Fei originally wanted to call her a bad woman out of habit. Fortunately, he reacted quickly and turned around. Ning Fei thought with lingering fear. That's right, that's right. Vice Captain, quickly make Feng Wu apologize. She should apologize for hitting Ruoshui. Lu Zong chimed in loudly from the side. Feng Juntian coldly glared at the two of them. He turned Feng Wu around and made her face Qiu Ruoshui. Xiao Wu, Big Brother heard that you hit Ruoxue. It's wrong to hit people. You should apologize to Ruoxue. Do you understand? Feng Juntian didn't use his identity as her big brother to force Fengwu to apologize. He wanted to try and reason with her. He felt that Fengwu had grown up a lot recently. Perhaps he could make her take the initiative to apologize. Fengwu heard Feng Juntian's words and looked at Qiu Ruoxue. She pursed her lips tightly and didn't say anything. Why did Big Brother want her to apologize to this bad person? This bad person scolded her baby and scolded her. Xiao Wu didn't like bad people. She didn't want to apologize. But if she didn't apologize, Big Brother wouldn't like her anymore. Big Brother treated her well, just like the older brothers of the little girls at the foot of the mountain. He would pamper her and buy her delicious food. She didn't want to lose her big brother and didn't want to apologize. What should she do? Fengwu girl rarely felt so distressed. But now, she felt very helpless and didn't know what to do. Because she didn't know what to do, Fengwu just stood there like a block of wood and didn't say anything. Xiao Wu. Feng Juntian called out a few times, but his sister didn't respond to him. Could it be that she didn't want to apologize and get angry again? Xiao Wu, you should apologize. You shouldn't have hit Ruoxue that day. Apologize and let's make up, okay? Feng Ting gently walked to Fengwu's side. She wanted to hold Fengwu's hand, but Fengwu girl hid her hand behind her back and didn't let her. Xiao Wu. Feng Ting looked at Fengwu with hurt. She called out Fengwu's name pitifully. Unfortunately, Fengwu lowered her head and didn't even look at her. She just gave her a black crown. Fengwu, you're bullying Tingting again. You're always like this. Isn't it because Tingting is better than you? You're so narrow-minded. Qiu Ruoxue glared at Fengwu indignantly, as if Fengwu had done something disgraceful by not accepting Feng Ting's kindness. Chapter 209. Lu Zong and Ning Fei were naturally the same as Qiu Ruoxue and looked at Fengwu with displeasure. Humph. Bad woman. You only know how to bully others with your status as the Feng family's legitimate daughter. You really don't know how to repent. No wonder the captain doesn't like you. It would be strange if anyone would like a woman like you. Hurry up and apologize to Ruoxue. This time, not only do you have to apologize to Ruoxue, but you also have to apologize to Feng Ting. Lu Zong shouted. Feng Juntian looked at this scene with a headache. He didn't know what was going on, but things seemed to be getting more and more troublesome. He felt that Qiu Ruoxue, Lu Zong, and Ning Fei's reactions were too much. He knew that Xiao Wu had never liked Feng Ting. He didn't force her to get along with Feng Ting. In any case, in a large family, it was almost impossible to find a legitimate daughter and a concubine's daughter who had a good relationship. Feng Juntian was very unhappy that Lu Zong wanted Fengwu to apologize to Feng Ting. Feng Ting and Fengwu were both members of the Feng family. Even if Fengwu did something wrong, only the Feng family had the qualifications to make her apologize. Lu Zong and the others had overstepped their boundaries. Lu Zong, the matter between Fengwu and Feng Ting will naturally be handled by Juntian, a member of the Feng family. The implication was that his actions had overstepped their status as friends. Lu Zong was reminded by Qiu Ruobai and also understood his mistake. He shut his mouth and no longer forced Fengwu to apologize to Feng Ting. Ning Fei, who had originally planned to speak gently to Lu Zong, also understood when he heard the captain's words. He didn't dare to join in the commotion. Both of them were legitimate sons of large families. Even if their thoughts weren't as deep as Feng Juntian and Qiu Ruobai, they weren't idiots. Some things they didn't understand at the moment, but after being reminded, they immediately understood their mistakes. On the other hand, because Qiu Ruoxue had always been spoiled by her family, she never had the concept of overstepping her boundaries. She only knew that her good friend had been bullied by Fengwu, this trash. If she didn't apologize, she wouldn't be able to swallow this anger. I told you to apologize. Did you hear me? Are you playing dumb? Let me tell you, there's no way. You must apologize to me and Ting today. Otherwise, we won't be finished. With her brother here and 2 friends helping her, Qiu Ruoshui had nothing to fear this time. Fengwu still kept her head down. Even if she didn't say anything, she still wouldn't say anything. She looked like she was going to be a wooden puppet until the end. Qiu Ruobai frowned as she looked at her younger sister's unreasonable behavior. She wondered if she and her parents had spoiled her too much, spoiling her so much that she didn't know how to analyze the pros and cons. In front of the son of the first wife, she wanted a daughter of the first wife to apologize to a daughter of a concubine. If she had forced a small family, everything would have been fine. After all, the strength of the Qiu family was there. Even if that person had resentment in his heart, he wouldn't dare to disobey, let alone take revenge. It just so happened that the person she forced was the daughter of the first wife of the Feng family, who was as powerful as the Qiu family. A person who could do this kind of thing could be called brainless. It just so happened that this brainless person was her own little sister. Enough, Ruoshui. Then, he looked at Fengwu and said, Fengwu, as long as you apologize to my sister, the matter of you hitting her will be forgotten. In the future, no one in the Qiu family will pursue this matter. Brother. Qiu Ruoshui didn't want to comply. How could she be let off so easily with just an apology? If she didn't slap her a few times, she wouldn't be able to vent her anger. I said, that's enough. Qiu Ruobai gave her younger sister a deep look, her eyes filled with a strong sense of warning. Qiu Ruoshui knew her brother's temper. Usually, it was fine to throw a tantrum, but when her brother was angry, it was best to be honest. When her brother was angry, he wouldn't give anyone face. Qiu Ruoshui closed her mouth, feeling wronged. She didn't dare to make her brother angry again. I won't apologize. At this time, Fengwu, who had been silent, finally spoke. She slowly raised her head. Her voice was still soft, but there was stubbornness and a touch of grievance in her voice. Xiao Wu, don't be stubborn. As long as you apologize, this matter will be over. Ruobai has already promised not to pursue this matter. Feng Juntian stared closely at Fengwu. He did this because he didn't want Fengwu to be hated by Feng Juntian. He also didn't want this matter to reach his grandfather. Once his grandfather knew that Fengwu caused trouble again and even hit a daughter of the Qiu family, he would dislike Fengwu even more. She's a bad person. She scolded Xiao Yi and me. I won't apologize to a bad person. Fengwu turned away and no longer looked at her brother. Although Fengwu wanted a brother, she wouldn't give up her perseverance for a brother who stood on the side of a bad person. Feng Juntian wanted to persuade her again, but at this time, there was a commotion. Many men and women looked towards the entrance of the garden. There were also small exclamations as if they had seen something incredible. Heavens, is that the Prince of the Silver Moon Ancient Kingdom? He's so good-looking. I've never seen such a good-looking person. I feel that he's even more handsome than Feng Juntian and Qiu Ruobai. As expected of a prince from the Silver Moon Ancient Kingdom. He's as beautiful as the moonlight. If only I had the chance to talk to her. Dream on. Can't you see that the princesses are here? Moreover, even if the princesses aren't here, there's still Qiu Ruoshui and Lan Zhou. How could we have the chance to talk to that prince? Did you guys hear? The third princess seems to have taken a fancy to that prince and intends to have a marriage alliance with the Silver Moon Ancient Kingdom. Is that true? The third princess's standards are indeed high. I've never heard of any man that could enter her eyes. Now, she's finally taken a fancy to one. What's so strange about that? That prince is so good-looking and has a noble background. I'm afraid there are many girls who have taken a fancy to him. However, who would dare to compete with the princess for a husband? It's not like they don't want to live in the ancient Eastern Kingdom anymore. The girls' discussion flooded into the ears of Fengwu's group. Only now did they notice that tonight's distinguished guest had arrived. Separated by the crowd, they couldn't see whether the prince was as handsome as the girls described him to be. Feng Juntian didn't mention the apology again. After all, now wasn't the time. The visit of a prince from the Silver Moon Ancient Kingdom was a big event. Moreover, it was said that this prince was very likely to be the next Moon Emperor. With such a noble person here, anything else could be put aside. Ting, let's go take a look at that prince. I'm really curious what he looks like. With a new distraction, Qiu Ruoshui immediately forgot that she was still waiting for Fengwu's apology. Although Qiu Ruoshui didn't have any other thoughts about this mysterious prince, she was very curious about what kind of person he was. Was he handsome? She heard that the people from the Silver Moon Ancient Kingdom were all handsome men and beautiful women because of the protection of the moon. She didn't know if this was true or not. Chapter 210. Qiu Ruoshui was very curious about the prince. She wanted to go to the third floor to ask Princess Ronghua, but her sister was worried that she would make Princess Ronghua unhappy, so she didn't let her go to the third floor at all. She really didn't understand what was wrong with her sister today. In the past, she could go to the third floor with her sister, and the empress and the princess liked her very much. Why couldn't she do it this year? Although Qiu Ruoshui had a bad temper and did some tasks recklessly, she was not a smart girl. She couldn't understand the deep meaning of her sister's actions. The reason why Qiu Ruobing didn't let Qiu Ruoshui go to the third floor to inquire about the prince was that she was afraid that Princess Ronghua would be suspicious of her. Lan Zhou was already the future princess, but she hadn't chosen her future husband yet. Now everyone knew that Princess Ronghua was determined to get the prince. If Qiu Ruoshui went up to inquire about it at this time, maybe Princess Ronghua would think that they had some thoughts about the man she liked. People only knew that Princess Ronghua was graceful and elegant, but no one knew that she had always been narrow-minded and very suspicious. It took Qiu Ruobing a lot of effort to become friends with Princess Ronghua. She naturally knew when she could get close and when she needed to stay away to avoid suspicion. It was a pity that Qiu Ruobing didn't dare to tell Qiu Ruoshui these things. Qiu Ruoshui had never been scheming, so Qiu Ruobing didn't dare to tell her these things. Well, Xiao Wu, do you want to go together? Feng Ting nodded, then turned to ask Fengwu. Who knew that Fengwu turned her head and ignored her? Feng Ting smiled awkwardly. Humph. You don't know how to appreciate kindness. Ting, let's go. Don't pay attention to that guy. Qiu Ruoshui made a face at Fengwu, then pulled Feng Ting and ran into the crowd. Feng Juntian saw this scene and could only smile helplessly. Although Xiao Wu had become obedient, she was still as stubborn as before. As long as she thought it was right, no one could make her bow her head. Fengwu was very unhappy, because everyone here wanted her to apologize to the bad guy, even her favorite brother. Fengwu felt wronged. Her master had told her that if someone said bad things about her, she should hit them back if she didn't want to listen. She was very obedient to her master. That bad person said bad things about her and the baby. She hit them back, but her brother said that she was wrong and wanted her to apologize. She didn't want to apologize. They were all bad people. Fengwu missed her master, and she missed him more and more. Fengwu, who was feeling aggrieved, didn't notice that the crowd was rushing towards them. It seemed that the prince was walking towards them, and the crowd was following him. Fengwu inadvertently raised her head to look at the prince surrounded by the crowd. When she saw who it was, her eyes immediately lit up. The Fengwu girl rushed forward like a cannonball, pushing aside the noble ladies who were blocking her way. Then, before anyone could react, she threw herself into the prince's arms. Ah! The young girl's scream rang out. Who is she? How dare she? She's too shameless. Our ancient Eastern country's face has been lost by this woman. Just wait and see. His Highness will definitely push her away. Isn't that Fengwu? Finally, someone recognized the Fengwu girl. No way. It seems to be her. Isn't she secretly in love with Qiu Ruobai of the Qiu family? Why would she throw herself into the arms of the Silvermoon ancient country's prince? Why else? She's just shameless. How infuriating. How did our ancient Eastern country produce such a shameless woman? How will His Highness look at us now? Even the other girls are losing face with her. Although there was still a smile on Princess Ronghua's beautiful face, her hands hidden in her sleeves had already clenched into fists. She really didn't expect that someone would be so bold. These noble ladies had already guessed that the ancient Eastern country and the Silvermoon ancient country had a marriage alliance. Now, there was a bold lowly servant who dared to seduce the prince in front of her. She really didn't know life from death. After the prince left, she would definitely make that woman pay the price. Princess Ronghua viciously thought in her heart. At the same time, she was still waiting for the prince to push this shameless woman away. The prince of the Silvermoon ancient kingdom also pushed away the woman in his arms, just as everyone expected. At this time, although Fengwu was no longer in his arms, her hands were still stubbornly wrapped around his waist. Her eyes were still a little red and she looked very wronged. It's over. Feng Juntian secretly cursed. He regretted that he didn't keep an eye on Fengwu. This time, he caused big trouble. It was all because of her that Fengwu did this kind of thing. Qiu Ruobai secretly frowned. What was Fengwu doing? Didn't she know that this would cause trouble for the Feng family? Qiu Ruobing stood behind Princess Ronghua and looked at this scene coldly. What was going on? It was reasonable to say that that kind of medicine shouldn't take effect so soon. Although she wanted to avenge her sister, she would never choose this time. It was reasonable to say that the medicine would take effect at least half an hour later. Qiu Ruobing was puzzled. Yilin walked away alone after leaving the bamboo house. She didn't want to be suspected. She didn't expect Qiu Ruoxue to be so cruel. What kind of medicine did she use? Would the Feng family be implicated? Although Yilin was ambitious, she didn't want to harm the Feng family. No matter how stupid she was, she knew that the Feng family was her strongest backing. As long as the Feng family existed, no matter who she married in the future, she would not be treated coldly by her husband's family. If she had known that Fengwu would cause such a big trouble today, she wouldn't have agreed to help set up Fengwu in order to please Qiu Ruoxue. Now, not only was Fengwu unlucky, but even the Feng family would be blamed for not teaching their daughter well. Although there would be no real punishment, the reputation of the girls in the Feng family would be ruined. Not teaching their daughter well. Fengwu was not the only girl in the Feng family. She, the cousin of the Feng family, would also be unlucky. Yi Ting was so regretful that her intestines almost turned green. Feng Ting was also regretful. She really didn't expect that Qiu Ruoxue would arrange such a vicious plan to target Fengwu. If she had known it would be like this, she would definitely stop it. How could she not understand what Yilin could understand? She hated it so much. You drugged Fengwu. Why didn't you choose another time? Why did you choose to do it when the Prince of the Silver Moon Ancient Kingdom came to visit? This not only harmed Fengwu, but also Feng Ting. It was almost impossible for her to find a good husband in the future. This was ruining her life. She even hated Qiu Ruoxue now. If Qiu Ruoxue treated her as a friend and considered her a little, she would never choose such a vicious way to ruin Fengwu's reputation at this time. Chapter 211. Thinking that her reputation was ruined by Fengwu and that it was impossible for her to be with her sweetheart, her eyes turned red with hatred. Even though Feng Ting was smart, she almost fell to the ground in the face of such a blow. Feng Ting didn't know that Qiu Ruoxue was even more surprised than her. Qiu Ruoxue was also puzzled. The effect of the medicine couldn't take effect so quickly. She didn't want Fengwu to embarrass herself in front of the prince. This time, not only Fengwu, but also everyone in the Feng family would be unlucky. Qiu Ruoxue's face was as pale as a ghost. If her family knew that all of this was planned by her and her sister, she couldn't imagine what would happen to her. If this matter was found out by the royal family, then their family would be disgraced by the royal family together with the Feng family. What was the most important thing for a family? Wasn't it face? Once she made the Qiu family lose face in front of the other major families, then Grandpa would never let her go. Just thinking about her own fate made Qiu Ruoxue tremble with fear. At this time, Qiu Ruoxue didn't know that before the Qiu family could do anything to her, the person next to her already wanted to strangle her to death. While everyone was having their own thoughts, the prince of the Silver Moon Ancient Kingdom did something that shocked everyone. When he saw Feng Wu's face, he was surprised at first. Then, he gently reached out his hand and rubbed Feng Wu's dark little head. "Xiao Wu, what's wrong with you?" "Ming Shi." Feng Wu softly called this name and threw herself into the other party's arms. She buried her head in the other party's chest and didn't say anything. Yes, this visiting prince of the Silver Moon Ancient Kingdom was Ming Shi. Ming Shi was the prince of the Silver Moon Ancient Kingdom. After the end of the training, Ming Shi returned to the Silver Moon Ancient Kingdom. At this time, his father received a call for help from the Ancient Kingdom of the East. Ming Shi came to the royal family of the Ancient Kingdom of the East as a guest. He never thought that he would meet Fengwu in the ancient Oriental country, let alone in such an environment. It was just that Fengwu didn't look good right now. Her eyes were red as if she had been wronged. Ming Shi still had a certain understanding of the Fengwu girl. Don't be fooled by how she looked all day long. In fact, she was very sensitive and could get hurt easily at certain times. Good girl, don't be sad. You can tell me if you've been wronged. I'll help you, okay? Ming Shi hugged the little thing in his arms and comforted her softly. Your Highness, Princess, I have some matters to discuss with my friend. Please forgive Ming Shi for leaving first. Ming Shi didn't push Fengwu away. Instead, he turned his head and said to the Empress and several princesses of the ancient Eastern country. No one could have imagined that things would develop like this. Prince Ming Shi meant that he knew the trash Fengwu. What a joke. Why her? What qualifications does this trash have to know the future heir of the Silver Moon Ancient Kingdom? Many of the small and medium-sized families didn't know about Fengwu's unmarried child. This matter was spread among the children of the large families, but no one revealed it to the small and medium-sized families. Therefore, apart from a few noble ladies with extraordinary statuses, the rest of the group only thought that Fengwu was a trash who was useless in both magic and martial arts. They didn't know anything else. Those who knew were so shocked that their jaws almost fell. This was impossible. They must have opened their eyes the wrong way. Fengwu knew the prince of the Silver Moon Ancient Kingdom. This was even more shocking than hearing that she was suddenly accepted by the Feng clan again. Prince Ming Shi, since you have something to discuss, then go. But don't go too far. Your safety is very important. Nothing can happen to you. After all, the Empress was the Empress. Although she was also crazily shouting that it was impossible in her heart, she still looked dignified and noble. She didn't show any displeasure at Ming Shi's sudden departure. Ming Shi nodded, took Fengwu's hand and left. But with the Empress's reminder, they shouldn't go too far. Princess Ronghua looked at the scene of the two leaving hand in hand. Her heart was filled with jealousy. Why? Why did a woman with a bad reputation dare to come and steal her husband? She couldn't compare with that woman. She was so cold to her, but so gentle to Fengwu. Lan Zhou and Qiu Ruobing stood on the left and right of Princess Ronghua. They exchanged a look and didn't speak. The Empress patted Princess Ronghua's hand and organized the noble ladies as if nothing had happened. They were going to write down their wishes as in previous years, and then put their wishes in the river lantern. Princess Ronghua soon came to her senses after the Empress's reminder. She was a noble royal princess. She couldn't be laughed at. Thinking of this, she cheered up again. She acted like a noble lady and smiled elegantly and charmingly. She didn't mention that Prince Ming-Shi just left her and Fengwu. The remaining 4 princesses, except for the first princess, were not born of the same mother as Princess Ronghua. They were happy to see her make a fool of herself. Prince Ming-Shi was so excellent. Of course, there was more than one princess who liked him. However, Princess Ronghua suppressed the other 3 princesses because she was the Empress's daughter. Since Prince Ming-Shi came to visit, Princess Ronghua had not let them get close to her. She guarded against them as if they were thieves. Regarding Ronghua's tyranny, they dared to be angry but did not dare to say anything. After all, Ronghua had a powerful mother, and she herself was Imperial Father's most favored princess. Whether it was in terms of background or love, they could not compete with her. The 3 princesses could only shut up and did not have any more ideas about Prince Ming-Shi. Unexpectedly, someone else took action when they didn't, and it seemed to be successful. No matter who the woman was, they would be happy as long as they could make Princess Ronghua suffer. Unlike the princesses who were gloating over Feng Juentian's misfortune, everyone on Feng Juentian's side had more complicated thoughts. Feng Juentian had even thought of capturing Fengwu, but fortunately, he had changed his mind later on. Ming-Shi and Fengwu were unaware of all this. The 2 of them found a small corner that wasn't too conspicuous and sat together. Fengwu's pink and tender face was expressionless. She told them how bad the bad people were, how bad her brother was, and how everyone forced her to apologize to the bad people. Seeing Fengwu's pitiful little eyes, Ming-Shi felt his heart soften. It's okay. If you don't want to apologize, then don't. It's not your fault. Fengwu's eyes lit up when she heard this. Her whole person seemed to be in high spirits. He was really like her master. If it was her master, he definitely wouldn't make her apologize. And, I know. Master said that if anyone bullies me, then I have to fight back. I have to beat them until they're afraid. They won't dare to bully me anymore. Fengwu girl said with a smile. Hearing this, Ming-Shi suddenly felt a little displeased with Feng Juntian. What was Feng Juntian doing as an older brother? That person from the Qiu family still knew how to protect his little sister, but he forced Fengwu to apologize to someone who insulted her. As an older brother, he was such a failure. Chapter 212. Your master is right. If someone bullies you, you don't have to be polite and fight back. If you can't beat them, you can look for Senior. Senior can help you. Ajur, Elena, and the rest will all help you. Ming-Shi reached out and patted Fengwu's little head. N. Fengwu nodded her little head heavily, and her mood improved again. Ming-Shi and Fengwu didn't chat for too long. After all, there were too many people here, and they didn't know when someone would come looking for them. It really wasn't a safe place to chat, so the 2 of them didn't chat for long before they appeared in front of everyone again. When Feng Juntian saw his sister, he immediately chased after her. Xiao Wu. When Fengwu saw that Feng Juntian didn't say a word, she would have already pounced into her brother's arms and acted coquettishly. How could Feng Juntian not see that Fengwu was angry? However, he was really doing it for Fengwu's sake. Did she know that if she insisted on not apologizing, the person who would come looking for trouble with Xiao Wu wouldn't be a little girl like Qiu Ruoshui? Qiu Ruoshui might very well make a move. Xiao Wu, Big Brother knows that you are angry, but Big Brother is really doing it for your own good. Feng Juntian was very helpless. He had always treated his sister like this, but it was a pity that his sister couldn't understand his painstaking efforts. Because Fengwu had publicly thrown herself into his arms, she had already become the focus of everyone's attention. When Feng Juntian ran over at this time, people naturally moved Shiguang over from time to time, and even pricked up their ears to eavesdrop. However, why couldn't they hear anything? They even made a soundproof barrier. Was it good for them to do this? Couldn't they satisfy their curiosity a little? Perhaps you are doing it for Fengwu's sake, but it's a pity that this is not what she needs. Ming Shi said indifferently. Although he still had an angelic smile on his face, Feng Juntian could still feel that Ming Shi didn't like him. Take a look. If you still insist on Xiao Wu apologizing after you've seen it. Ming Shi took out a stone-like object from his bosom and handed it over. Feng Juntian reached out to take it and sent his consciousness into the image stone. Everything that happened during the mission that day was recorded in this small image stone. That day, Tingyu had recorded the entire incident. Since this incident involved Fengwu, she naturally could not allow this impression stone to be leaked. Since it was useless for them to keep it, Tingyu generously gave this stone to Fengwu. Of course, things in the mirage couldn't be used in the outside world. Tingyu insisted that Fengwu use her mental power to guide the contents of this image stone into the real world and record it with another real image stone. Fengwu naturally did as she was told. This stone was useless, so she had kept it in her space ring. When she mentioned this matter when she was chatting with Ming Shi asked for this image stone. Of course, before handing it over to Feng Juntian, he had already seen the contents once. After seeing the images in the image stone, he truly felt that Fengwu's 2 slaps were too light. She was so young and already had such vicious thoughts. She really deserved to be hit. After Feng Juntian saw all the images, his face turned ashen. He really didn't expect that Jean Li's 2 sentences would be so insulting. He originally thought that this time, it would be the same as before. When Fengwu heard Qiu Ruoshui call her trash and perhaps said something about Qiu Ruobai, it would cause Fengwu to lose control and hit her. He really didn't expect that the words he imagined in his mind weren't even a tenth of what was recorded in the image stone. If he had seen this earlier, he definitely wouldn't have let Fengwu and Qiu Ruoshui apologize. It would be more appropriate to let them apologize to his Fengwu. He didn't want Qiu Ruobai to make a move on Fengwu, but that didn't mean that he was afraid of Qiu Ruobai. Now that he knew the truth, even if Qiu Ruobai really wanted to make a move, he definitely wouldn't let her succeed. To tell the truth, the 2 of them had been brothers for many years and their relationship had always been very good. If it wasn't to seek justice for his sister, he wouldn't be willing to go against Fengwu. Unfortunately, things had already reached this point. Regardless of whether this would affect their brotherly relationship or not, he wouldn't let Fengwu and Qiu Ruoshui apologize again. Xiao Wu, Big Brother was wrong. Big Brother won't let you apologize to Qiu Ruoshui again. Just like Xiao Wu said, Xiao Wu didn't do anything wrong. Feng Juntian gently patted Fengwu's head. And, Big Brother is the best. Fengwu girl was happy and threw herself into her big brother's arms as usual. To her, as long as her big brother didn't force her to apologize, he was still her good big brother. Qiu Ruobai and Qiu Ruoshui, as well as Ning Fei and Lu Zong, all had a lot of questions to ask Feng Juntian. Unfortunately, Feng Juntian had been accompanying Fengwu ever since Fengwu and Ming Shi came back together. He didn't come over to their side at all, so no matter how many questions they had, they couldn't get any answers. That night, Fengwu was very happy. With her big brother and Ming Shi accompanying her, she released the river lantern and even made a wish on a small piece of paper, allowing the wish to flow down the river. After Ming Shi came back, he spoke a few words with the Empress and the princesses before staying with Fengwu. Seeing that Fengwu was in such a good mood, his perfect and exquisite face couldn't help but reveal a knowing smile. If he knew that the Fengwu girl's wish hidden in the river lantern was to marry him, he didn't know if he would still be able to smile. After the Daughter's Day, Fengwu's life returned to normal. A few days later, another big thing happened. That was, the Chiu family's madam brought her daughter to seek justice. The Chiu family only found out that their daughter had been beaten after the Daughter's Day. How could Madame Chiu, who had always doted on her daughter, tolerate her being beaten? Moreover, the one who beat her was not simple, my Fengwu. It would be strange if she could tolerate it. On the third day after the Daughter's Day, Madame Chiu brought her son and daughter to seek justice. Chiu Ruobai originally didn't want his mother to know about this matter. He knew that his mother was a very protective person. How could she tolerate her own child being beaten? He originally wanted to find another opportunity to go to the Feng family and have Fengwu apologize. However, Ruobing accidentally revealed this matter to his mother. This time, the matter really became big. Even Chiu Ruobai couldn't do anything to his mother. Along with the Chiu family were Lu Zong, Ning Fei, and Jin Li. These were all witnesses. She didn't want others to say that she made up something out of nothing and deliberately wronged the Feng family's trash daughter. Lady Chiu and Lady Feng had never gotten along very well. Lady Chiu was very protective of her own people and had a very fiery temper. She didn't like Lady Lan, who was as gentle as water and would cry at the slightest provocation. Chapter 213. In fact, there was another important reason why the two of them did not get along. The specific reason was related to Feng Tianqing. Back then, when Master Feng was choosing a wife for Feng Tianqing, the daughter-in-law that Master Feng liked was the current head of the Chiu family, who was the mother of the Chiu family's 3 siblings. At that time, the Chiu family's old master also liked Madame Chiu. Both families' old masters liked this daughter-in-law very much. At that time, Madame Chiu's family naturally knew the intentions of the two families' old masters. They had already decided that when the two families came to propose marriage, they would agree to the Feng family. Lady Chiu was a strong woman and was also a bit arrogant. Since she was young, she did not like handsome men. She liked men with masculinity. At that time, Feng Tianqing's skin was a healthy bronze. Like his father, he did not smile all year round. His whole face was like a living iceberg. The son of the Chiu family was born with fair skin and was extraordinarily handsome. He gave people the feeling of a pretty boy. Men with this style probably loved many people. Unfortunately, Lady Chiu did not feel anything. Thus, when she knew that both families liked her as a daughter-in-law, she had already chosen to marry into the Feng family. But in the end, things did not develop as Lady Chiu thought. The husband she liked Lan Xiaodai, who she had always looked down on. When Lan Xiaodai was in the boudoir, she was a beauty made of water. She had countless pursuers. Her every move, every frown, and every smile was very attractive. She could always make people feel tender affection. Such a beautiful woman naturally did not get along with the fiery Lady Chiu. Lady Chiu had always looked down on Lan Xiaodai. She always felt that she cried at the slightest thing and was very spineless. She was also very embarrassing as a woman. At that time, Lady Chiu did not expect that the cabbage that she liked would be taken away by the daughter she had always looked down on. The Feng family proposed marriage to the Lan family, and the Chiu family still proposed marriage to them according to the original plan. Lady Chiu's parents thought that since they had already lost the Feng family, they could not lose the Chiu family as well. These two families were both super families with more than 1,000 years of history. To be able to have a marriage alliance with an ordinary big family like them was simply a dream. It would be strange if they did not agree. Thus, Madame Lan married into the Feng family, and Madame Chiu married into the Chiu family, each living their own lives. After marriage, Lady Chiu and the Chiu family's first son lived a very happy life. She discovered that this pretty boy she had always thought was actually very manly. In the end, she naturally fell in love with the current Chiu family head, and the two of them lived a sweet and happy life. After getting married, Lady Chiu always believed that she lived a better life than Lady Lan. Her husband didn't give her any concubine children, while the Feng family had a concubine's daughter who held the title of eldest daughter. Her children were all geniuses, the dazzling pearls of the ancient Eastern country. Her son was a publicly acknowledged genius, and her eldest daughter was one of the three great beauties of the ancient Eastern country. She had countless suitors. As for Lan Xiaojia's daughter, she was trash among trash. Moreover, her personality was not good at a young age. Her heart was also bad. She always ran amok outside and caused trouble. In the end, she even gave birth to a child out of wedlock. It could be said that she lost all of the Feng family's face. In front of Madame Lan, especially when it came to her husband and children, she had always felt superior. It wasn't until she heard that her precious daughter was beaten by that trash Fengwu that she became angry and came to seek justice for her daughter. She didn't care why Fengwu beat her. She just wanted to let the Feng family know that their Chiu family's daughter wasn't beaten by that trash. Madame Chiu aggressively brought her 3 children and 3 witnesses into the Feng family. As soon as she entered the door, she demanded that Fengwu be handed over. Her whole person seemed very imposing. Chiu Ruobai looked on from the side and frowned. "Mother, were you sure you could handle this? Grandfather and Grandfather Feng were old friends for many years. You came to the Feng family today to make a scene. Are you sure Grandfather won't be angry when he finds out?" Chiu Ruoshui didn't think so much. As long as she thought of Fengwu kneeling in front of her and apologizing to her, she was very happy. Chiu Ruobing looked on coldly. Her whole person, like her name, gave people a cold feeling. Lu Zong and Ning Fei simply wanted to shrink themselves to the point that they didn't exist and come to the vice-captain's house to make a scene. "I say, Auntie, can we use a more civilized way to solve this matter? Can we not drag these small people into the water? They are timid. Please don't make a scene, okay?" Jean Li, who had always disliked trouble, wanted to immediately get out of here. Unfortunately, this matter was simply impossible. "Madame Chiu, I wonder why you suddenly came to visit." As the head of the family, Feng Tianqing, when he received the news of Madame Chiu's visit, he brought his son Feng Juntian to the hall to welcome her. But he didn't expect this Madame Chiu to be so imposing. It was obvious that she didn't come with good intentions. Feng Juntian used his eyes to ask Chiu Ruobai. Chiu Ruobai looked at her sister and returned a helpless look. Translated, it meant, "My mother found out about my sister being beaten and is causing trouble. I also didn't want to make a big fuss. Unfortunately, my mother didn't listen." Feng Juntian immediately understood the meaning of his good friend's expression. He knew that today's matter didn't seem to be caused by Chiu Ruobai. Chiu Ruobai had never liked to rely on her family and would solve everything by herself. Today's matter was clearly not caused by Chiu Ruobai. Important matter. Of course it's important. Your daughter Fengwu slapped my daughter Ruoshui twice. How do you think this matter should be settled? Madame Chiu said aggressively. Looking at her expression, it was clear that she didn't want to be kind. Fengwu slapped Chiu Ruoshui. Was he hallucinating? Feng Tianqing's first thought was that this couldn't be true. As her father, he knew how weak Fengwu's strength was. With Fengwu's strength, if she wanted to slap Chiu Ruoshui, let alone actually slapping her, she wouldn't even be able to get close to her. You didn't stay at home early in the morning. Are you sure you didn't bring so many people to my house to make me happy? If she really had that kind of strength, as her father, he should be gratified that his child had finally grown up. Are you sure it was Fengwu who slapped her and not someone pretending to be Fengwu to cause trouble for your daughter? Feng Tianqing muttered to himself for a moment before speaking. These words meant that he didn't believe it. To be honest, when Madame Chiu first heard this news, she also felt like she was listening to a heavenly book. What kind of strength did Chiu Ruoshui have and what kind of strength did Fengwu have? The two of them were on completely different levels. Saying that Fengwu slapped Chiu Ruoshui. It was more believable that Chiu Ruoshui slapped Fengwu. If Chiu Ruobing hadn't repeatedly guaranteed the authenticity of the matter and found Jin Li and the other two as witnesses, Madame Chiu wouldn't have come to the Feng family to make trouble. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.